Chapter 151. Crisis Era. The Misty Forest, 3. They only act like this towards their own people? Are you saying that these battleships didn't show up during the Interstellar War back then? How could you even have such a strange thought? Of course they showed up, it's just that. Dad, why are you always stopping mid-sentence? It's enough to drive a person crazy, isn't it? It's just that they loaded up those who considered themselves important and hid far away, then sent our reconnaissance team to the front lines. We were doing this job anyway, but they used us as meat shields. That was unacceptable. Do you know what I felt deep down when I saw those so-called assistant fleets? What did you feel? The moment Yige asked, he regretted it. His Xingqian's eyes were so deep, his gaze as sharp as cold stars in the night, a sharpness made up of deep-seated hatred. Looking at Xingqian like this, Yige couldn't help but shudder. The cold feeling went straight to the bone. Yige had never seen his father wear such an expression. His face seemed etched with the vicissitudes of time and endless pain, as if the whole world was his enemy. They are indeed powerful. Xingqian's voice was low and hoarse, as if squeezed from the depths of his throat. But their power is built on exploiting and oppressing their own people. They see mutual affection as betrayal, simply because such feelings make them feel they've lost face. They fear losing power, fear losing control, so they use the most brutal means to suppress all resistance. Xingqian's words echoed in the air, making Yige feel a chill down his spine. He couldn't imagine such a world, such rulers, such cruelty and ruthlessness. But what shocked him even more was that his father and mother had actually escaped from such a world. What happened then? How did you escape? Yige asked impatiently, his voice trembling slightly. Xingqian smiled bitterly, the smile full of helplessness and bitterness. Escape? We didn't escape at all. Those people's battleships were too powerful, like enormous steel fortresses, occupying the entire sky. We had no chance to escape. Their only goal was to capture us and bring us back to that world. They didn't care about the process. They only care about the result and not the process. Did they attack the civilians in their world? What do you think those blustering cowards wouldn't do? Yige didn't reply. Xingqian continued, at this time, our reconnaissance team also came over here, shouting for the captain. Then I took Linjing and joined their team. Inside the battleship, Xingqian harshly rebuked his former teammates. Captain, it's really not us who leaked the information. They discovered your trail for some reason we don't know. Oh, is that true? The personnel nodded like pounding garlic to show their approval. It's really not them who betrayed us. It must be because of this jade pendant. Perhaps the leader tracked us here based on my pendant. At this moment, Linjing walked out in a white robe. Linjing, why did you take off your battle dress? If a fight breaks out, these clothes won't provide effective protection. No, hurry back and put on your battle dress. We're going to have a fierce battle later. No, Xingqian, we have no chance of winning. Even if we win, where can we escape to? Then let's sacrifice this moment in time, exchange it for equal energy, and escape this damn galaxy. We'll go to the other side. I believe they will definitely accept us, because I am the most skilled reconnaissance genius in history. Do you think I would go with you? Xingqian was silent. These were just angry words, just venting the dissatisfaction and helplessness in his heart. You should all go. Xingqian did not resist. He dismissed the entire reconnaissance team, and then he and Linjing were taken back to that world. As he told this part, Yige could clearly feel Xingqian's eyes becoming blurred and helpless, as if he had returned to that terrifying world. What happened to Xingqian there? Perhaps only those who had experienced it themselves could feel it. Then, Xingqian's voice became even lower. They captured us and locked us up separately. I don't know what they did to Linjing. I only remember being taken to a secret room. There was a bed there, covered with a white cloth, and blood had stained it red, along with some dirty things. Xingqian stared blankly at the doorway. Linjing was lying there quietly, her body already ice-cold, her face as pale as paper, her eyes revealing endless pain and despair. She was clutching a piece of paper in her hand, tightly clutching it. The note said to let me live well and not be blinded by hatred. Ha ha ha, screw them. Yes, your old man really went crazy that time. I knew it was all done by the Hiluo. I extracted their DNA from those filth. They are demons, even more hateful than those invaders from advanced civilizations. They were attacking their own compatriots. As he said this, Yige trembled all over. Yige stepped forward to comfort him. What happened later? Later, they all died. Did you kill them? If you were me, what would you do? Don't dodge. Tell me like a man. I might also kill them. They are the ones who killed my mother. Yige finally understood that Lin Jing, his mother, wasn't killed by Yige. He had to bring this news to Yifeng. Do you know Lin Feng? Lin Feng? White-robed Yige seemed lost in thought. Who is he? Hearing this, Yige frowned. No one. Maybe just a stranger I mentioned casually. Yige's heart began to beat again. It seems someone is lying here, but who exactly is lying? Yige glared at Yige, as if to say not to interrupt his story, as it was difficult enough to build up such sad emotions. Do you want to know the rest of the story? Yige nodded, and Yige leaned back in his chair, stroking his beard, no longer showing any sharpness, but rather speaking calmly, like someone cutting up a chicken at the market. I escaped. You have to know that I was the most talented reconnaissance agent of that era. As he said this, Yige's voice became very low. They were also blinded by hatred and put me on the most wanted list throughout the galaxy. But who am I? You were the greatest reconnaissance captain of that era. That's right, you're a kid with potential. Later, I found an opportunity, and while they weren't paying attention, I piloted a battleship and escaped their control. At that time, I didn't know where to go, so I wandered around. Unexpectedly, I found an AI entity again. Near that AI entity was an abandoned spaceship. I boarded it without hesitation and used my skills to repair the engine and navigation system. More importantly, there were actually 7 energy balls on that spaceship. Yige interjected, "What are energy balls?" Yige looked at Yige as if he were an idiot. Yige felt a chill all over his body. Was this question common knowledge? Suddenly, just as Yige was racking his brains, Yige slapped his forehead. "Oh, I forgot you were fostered. Sigh, it's my fault. You only learned the basics of many things. Okay, I forgive you. Are you saying I'm your son and I'm embarrassing you? Of course. Your old man is the most outstanding reconnaissance captain in the entire galaxy. All right, don't show off. Tell me quickly what energy balls are." "No, you should know. You want to use the AI entity to travel through time and space. You need an equal amount of energy as support, and these energy balls are carriers that can provide energy support in the galaxy. With these, you can travel freely. You don't even know this. How did you come to this time and space?" Yige really wanted to say that he was unconscious, and then Elena wanted to die with him, but who would have thought that by some twist of fate, they would have come here? But he was afraid of being glared at again. Yige didn't want to be an idiot, so he learned to be obedient. But then, you wouldn't have sacrificed your civilization to get here, would you? As expected, nothing could be hidden from Yige. Wait, didn't you first sacrifice Earth's civilization? Then the Earth disaster day broke out, and we used the Devil's Eye in the Earth's core to come here. Weren't these all set up by you? Yige was no longer calm. How is that possible? Even tigers don't eat their cubs. What's more, you are the only flesh and blood Lin Jing left in this world. All right, I'm not interested in these trivial questions. I'll continue to tell you about my later experiences. It's up to you how much of the story you can comprehend after listening. I traveled through time and space and came to an unknown world. Everything there was completely different from the galaxy I was in before, as if it were a completely new universe. So I began to explore this unknown world, piloting the spaceship through this vast universe. I found that the arrangement of the galaxies here was completely different from the world I was in before, as if it were a new cosmic order. Just when I was about to give up, I accidentally discovered a mysterious force. This force was everywhere, but difficult to grasp. I felt that it was making some kind of connection with me, as if it were conveying some kind of information to me. I tried to communicate with this force, trying to master its secrets. After countless attempts and failures, I finally discovered its mystery. It turned out that this force was emitted by a device that could travel through time and space. This device used the latest theories in physics and astronomy, allowing people to instantly move to another time and space. Yige's voice became excited. Do you know? When I discovered this secret, I couldn't believe my eyes. It meant that it was possible for me to go back to Lin Jing's side, to change everything. Sigh. This sigh brought Yige back to reality again. Why are you sighing? My handsome appearance has caused trouble after all. You wouldn't have fallen in love with another woman again, would you? Does my mom know about this? Well, she should know. I don't know if she has ever been here later. So you really did? Yige's expression became richer, and Yixingchen was full of emotion, as if recalling a bitter youth. I found life forms in that time-traveling device. Their structure is different from ours. They are completely two different forms. You should have seen them. You have their aura on you. As he said this, Yixingchen sniffed Yige's body like a puppy. Are you talking about the Earth's core silicon people? Seeing Yixingchen nod, Yige's heart trembled. You wouldn't have fallen in love with Qiong again? No, if that were the case, I shouldn't exist in this world, right? Yixingchen wore an expression that said you're very smart. You guessed right, but please pay attention to your words. Qiong is not the Qiong you know. This is just the silicon-based life's term of respect, like the king in our human civilization. But their vitality is very tenacious. I guess what you encountered was her descendant. Wouldn't Qiong be my sister? Of course not. Who is your old man? I am the most talented reconnaissance captain under the stars. All right, haven't you noticed that you have a lot of questions today? We need to finish the story as soon as possible. Otherwise, your life may be in danger. Why is that? I'm living well now. Yixingchen rolled his eyes at Yige again, as if his lifetime of fame had been ruined on this disappointing son. Look at this. This scene surprised Yige very much. The big screen showed that after they fell into a coma, Dr. Zhao returned to the laboratory and controlled their bodies in large seal bottles, covered with tubes. His own body was very peaceful inside. Are you saying that I am now in the same state as when I entered the prison cage space? How did you do it? All right, you don't have much time left. I must use this limited time to help you solve the mystery of your birth mother's death. Otherwise, you will be sold and help count the money. Sigh, my lifetime of fame. Yige was speechless and cursed Yixingchen's ancestors in his heart, but it felt like he was cursing himself, so he listened quietly. And Yixingchen also accelerated the speed of speaking. Later, I discovered that these silicon-based life forms are the darlings of the entire universe. They are very good at discovering the rules of the universe's operation and transforming these rules, so their civilization process is several levels higher than ours, even higher than the civilization level of the cosmic hunters we encountered. So, I used Qiong and learned a lot from them, especially some physical rules. Qiong valued me very much and took me to a higher level planet. My knowledge was unprecedentedly sublimated. Soon, the fact that I was a human carbon-based life was discovered. Qiong took me and fled in a panic. As he said this, Yixingchen looked at Yige. What have you done that angered God and man again? Haha, you still know me. I just stole 2 eggs from the strongest families, and later I realized that they were their future kings. Yixingchen was very understated, and Yige was extremely uneasy. All right, it's nothing. Later we fled to the Earth's core Silicon People's tribe, and then used the time-traveling device to escape the silicon-based civilization system. When we returned to the Milky Way, Qiong proposed to me and I fled again. As for what happened later, you can imagine it yourself. I went through many twists and turns and finally returned to the place where Lin Jing lived again. But that world had collapsed, and I still couldn't meet Lin Jing. So I tried many times, but still couldn't succeed. Just when I was disheartened, Qiong appeared. She told me that if I wanted to survive in a certain time and space, I must sacrifice my current self and become a traveler of time and space. Only in this way can I avoid destroying the original time node and contact them. I lied to Qiong again and led them to the time nodes of the family and the mysterious organization where Lin Jing was. You should already know what happened later. Yige rubbed his face. Know what? I don't know anything. Chapter 153, Crisis Era, The Misty Forest, 5. You don't know? Yixingchen looked at Yige in confusion. I thought you already knew, but it doesn't matter. Put this on your head. Don't worry, I won't harm you. I'm just reading your memory from this time. Why does this helmet feel so familiar? Of course you're familiar with it. You used this imitation version when you entered the Star Alliance. That one has side effects, that is, it will make people feel drowsy. This is the original genuine version and has no side effects at all. You don't have a voyeuristic hobby, do you? Of course, I have seen all kinds of scenes. What you are playing now is just the leftovers of what I played. Don't worry, I'm just observing your experience in the cage world. I feel that you don't understand the true intention of the space I left for you at all. Yige hesitated for a moment, but still instinctively chose to put on the helmet. Yige thought to himself, "It's been a long time since I saw my old friends. I wonder what it will be like to meet again." Yige put on the helmet, and the picture in his mind was read out. He met his old friends in the cage space again, and his eyes couldn't help but glisten with tears. Yige watched quietly. When he saw Yige drifting in the endless starry sky, his pupils suddenly widened. Is it? Did Netherworld also participate in this war? No wonder Yige doesn't know anything now. It turns out that someone doesn't want him to know. What is their purpose? For a while, Yige couldn't understand it, because that Netherworld also issued a warning to Yige, telling him not to meddle in other people's business. In order to protect Yige had to withdraw early, and he asked Yige to take off the helmet. It seems that you really are a traveler. Forget about those fleeting stories and people. It's better not to know many things than to know them. Next, I'll say it, and you just listen. Our group is the people you met in the cage space, and that mysterious organization is the later Sirius civilization. You also participated in the war between them. As for why they still exist on Earth, you should be clearer than me, right? Yige looked at Yige. Well, I met the cage immigrants again in the new Earth world. They told me that a helicopter carrying another me helped them rebuild the new Earth world together. But that me is not the first, second, and third I know at all, so I don't know why they are together. Is it again? Yige frowned. This matter seems to be getting more and more complicated. That mysterious Netherworld seems to have been secretly manipulating everything. Yige, you need to be careful. This world is not as simple as you see it. Then what should we do now? Wait. At present, it seems that a Netherworld doesn't mean to harm you. It's just that the direction of the cage space I left for you has long been destroyed by him. Is this the reason why you left me a note not to believe anyone's words? Note? What note? Oh, it's nothing. I found the diary you left behind when I was in the Star Alliance. It told me not to believe anyone's words, so I always remember what you said. Ha ha ha, you mean that diary? Didn't Dr. Zhao see it? That was what I left for him. Ha ha ha, he always wanted to take over, so I just wrote something to play with him. Including the design concept of AI, this itself will lead him to a disastrous path. Think about how the initial rules of the universe can be invented by someone. Who does he think he is? The creator. He, but you were able to come to this time node, which means you have long since come out of that misunderstanding. All right, don't disturb me. I have to tell you the whole story. After all, we don't have much time left. In fact, the first battle in the cage space changed the direction of the entire timeline. It should have been the fierce battle between Qiong's family and the Sirius civilization, the organization where Linjing was, but instead it dragged the entire mother planet into the battle. And this fierce battle made the time and space collide with each other in the interleaving, and even caused the time to collapse. So I seized the opportunity and used the power generated by the space-time shock to repair the bug. After that, I committed suicide. Yige's heart was deeply shocked. Although he wanted to revive Mu Fei, he hadn't thought of committing suicide and entering reincarnation. Did 1, 2, and 3 also commit suicide for Mu Fei? Maybe, otherwise how would I have come? It seems that I am not infatuated enough. What are you thinking nonsense? It's nothing. It's just that this is the first time I've heard that my father has done such a great thing, to die for love. Haha, at that time, I was still young. Yishin's eyes became deep, as if he had returned to that time and space. Qiong was also injured in that battle. She found me and wanted to continue her life, but at that time I was already with Lin Jing, so I chose to refuse. Qiong felt ashamed, so she took her people and hid on a planet that no one knew about. I don't know the story after that. However, if you meet number 1 in other timelines, he may know some. Unfortunately, I underestimated the impact of the space-time collapse. Later, Lin Jing also disappeared from my timeline, and I kept traveling through time and space, so I called myself a time-space traveler, traveling through different time and space, looking for a way to change all this. Perhaps my efforts moved the creator, and Lin Jing and I finally met. We dare not approach each other anymore. We just quietly pay attention to each other. Sometimes I think this is a kind of happiness, so there are not so many misunderstandings later. Yige listened dumbfounded. There was too much information, and he needed time to digest it. Then what about me? How did I come about? You? Yixingchen looked at Yige, and a complex emotion flashed in his eyes. Of course you are the crystallization of the lives of Lin Jing and I, and you are the greatest child. I believe you will keep going. Don't worry, let me tell you slowly. Yige also leaned back on the chair like Yixingchen and vowed not to say another word. We just paid attention to each other, but how much we wanted a child. So we made a bold decision, which was to create a child. At this moment, even though Yige was so curious about the word create, he still endured it and didn't say anything. Yixingchen looked towards Yige and continued, yes, it is to create a child. We started collecting some materials that appeared during the time-space collapse, and then created a girl. Lin Jing said she liked girls, and it happened that I also liked girls, so there was Elena.
What?
Yige looked at Yixingchen in shock. Are you saying that Elena is a man-made person? You can say that. Yixingchen nodded. Elena is an experimental product I created in order to find a way to change time and space. Her body combines the genes of humans and silicon-based life, and possesses a power that we do not have. And Lin Jing liked this girl more and more, so she wanted to keep this girl by her side. Then what happened later? Yige guessed whether he was also created in this way. Chapter 154, Crisis Era, The Misty Forest, 6. Yige was still trying to process all this information. Was I made the same way you guys make things? Are you crazy, kid? I told you, you're the product of our love. Didn't you and Elena already consummate things? How can you not understand the word product? How do you know about that? I saw it in the memory helmet. Yixingchen knew he'd let something slip, so he swallowed the words, I saw it, down his esophagus, ultimately letting them exist as gaseous waste. Yige felt awkward. What about Elena? Is she a traveler too? No, she isn't. Lin Jing genuinely liked the girl. When we were expecting you, we thought of her as a possible bride for you. Considering the possibility of space-time collapse, we programmed a reboot and repair sequence in her. So, Mother wanted her to be my wife? Yige asked, and after getting a confirmation, he continued. So you guys programmed her to like me at the same time? Do you think that's fair to her? Besides, Yige didn't have the courage to say the rest. Yes, I like Mu Fei, but do I dislike Elena at all? Yige was feeling very anxious. I don't know why you see it that way. Even though Elena is an android, she has her own feelings. She knows who she loves and what love is. We definitely wouldn't interfere with that. No, you definitely interfered. She only likes me because it was programmed. Yixingchen, how many times have you lied to me since I was a kid? Is this because of Mu Fei? Son, you can't force matters of the heart. And what about you? What right do you have to say that to me? Back then, you caused space-time to collapse because of Mother. Is it wrong for me to pursue my own love? But you're supposed to love Elena. Mu Fei, forget it. Live your own life. But if you want to know how your mother, Lin Jing, really died, then sit down. If not, you can go. You're not welcome here. Yige walked to the door, but then turned back and sat down without a word, refusing to look at Yixingchen. Truth be told, Yige really wanted to know how his mother died, but he hated Yixingchen's attitude. Anyway, you're my father. When you die, I'll bury you and Mother separately. See how cocky you are now. Of course, Yige didn't dare say that out loud. He was afraid Yixingchen would beat him up. After all, he was strong enough to do it. Your mother and I had intimate contact while exploiting spatial distortions, and that's how we conceived you. But we still couldn't appear at the same time, so we arranged to meet here every once in a while. Here? This forest? Yes, don't you find this forest familiar? Yige got up and opened the door. Memories from before he was 5 years old began to flash in his mind. Daddy, why do all the other kids have mothers, but I don't? I want a mother too. Daddy, please don't leave me. Daddy, don't leave me. I'll be good. I won't look for Mom anymore, Wah. Daddy, I'm scared. Thinking of all this, he began to tremble. Yixingchen came over and put his arm around his shoulder. Do you remember now? Did my mom die right after I was born? I don't know. I haven't seen her since you were born. It's cold outside. Let's go back inside. But I miss her. I miss her too. That's why I left you when you were 5 and entrusted you to a good friend of mine. Now it seems she didn't take good care of you. I really don't know if I did the right thing back then. Does it matter? I'm living perfectly well now. Yige looked at Yige, clearly feeling that Yige hadn't understood his meaning. And in fact, Yige was starting to suspect Dean Su Ying's motives. Who did you entrust me to? Didn't she adopt you later? Are you talking about the dean? Yes, she was a good friend of your mother and me. I even mentored her when we were in college. She was a trustworthy and simple person back then. So when I went to look for your mother when you were 5, I entrusted you to her care. However, I didn't expect her to put Mu Fei by your side instead of Elena. Yige, is Mu Fei really that important in your life? She's the most important person in my life, even more so than you and mother. Now, she's dead. I have to go find her. You won't find her. She's completely dead. Elena is your true love. Trust me, son. Elena? Where is she? You must know where she is, right? Isn't she always with you? No. When we arrived at this place, Elena was already unconscious and missing. Someone kidnapped her. I don't know who. Then why aren't you looking for her? I have been looking for her, but I don't have any leads. The only thing I know is that she's still alive. As he spoke, Yige took out Elena's jade pendant. I can sense her aura on this. She should be in a safe place now, but I don't know where she is. You still like her and care about her, right? I don't know. Forget it. Let's end this pointless topic. Even though we're father and son, it's really awkward for two grown men to discuss this. Yige nodded and said nothing more. Suing told you what happened later, right? She also told you that your mother and I would appear at different times, right? Yige nodded again. That's right. She didn't lie about what happened after that. But she said that my mother was killed by you. Is that true? No, your mother isn't truly dead. Someday, I'll find her. But I don't understand why she told you that. What reason would she have? She tried to assassinate me. When I met her again, I questioned her, and that's when she explained the truth. What? She wanted to kill you? What good would that do her? I don't know. All right, I understand. Wait here for me. Yige went out and soon returned, followed by another old man in white robes. Yige recognized the old man. It was Yin Lu from the star chain Heavenly Stems and Earthly Branches. Greetings, young master. Didn't you say that Yige left West Continent? Yes, I did. Then why is he still here? This isn't West Continent. Then where is it? I can't say. Yige was irritated. All right, I know the truth now. Remember this. Never be so naive again. Their goals aren't simple, but don't worry. They'll never harm you again. What does that mean? Do you have anything else you want to ask? It was clear that Yige didn't want to talk to Yige anymore. He had said what he needed to say, and the rest was up to Yige. Did you leave this for me? As he spoke, Yige took out the parchment scroll. Chapter 155, Crisis Era, The Misty Forest, 7. Can you tell me the information on this? Yige clenched his fists nervously, his eyes filled with longing and fear of the unknown. I can, Yige's voice echoed, possessing an unquestionable authority. Because I want to see you. The entire event's timeline has been advanced. You don't need to complete some of the tasks that were originally set because there's not enough time. Not enough time? An inexplicable anxiety surged within Yige, causing him to press further. What does that mean? When you truly reach the space-time I reside in, you will truly understand, Yige replied, his tone revealing a deep and distant aura. Subsequently, Yige began to recount the story inscribed upon the parchment scroll. His voice was low and powerful, each word carrying the weight of centuries of history and secrets. Yige listened intently, his heartbeat accelerating as the story unfolded. He heard tales of ancient Egyptian tribes, migrations of Western conquering tribes, man-made disasters, rice and wheat from the Mesopotamian valley, and the legendary experiences of the powerful East Continent and the new ruler of Kunlun ruins. These pieces of information, like jigsaw pieces, gradually coalesced into a shocking image within his mind. Yige, I know it's difficult for you to understand. Xingqian gazed deeply into his eyes, a complex light flickering within them. Do you remember when we used to play RPG games? Life doesn't have save points, but games do. Why are games so alluring? Because you can save at will, trigger hidden quests at random. But what about our lives? We can only grow old in a step-by-step, predictable manner. Do you understand? Yige gripped the parchment scroll tightly in his hands, his eyes filled with confusion, doubt, and unease. He suddenly felt as though he had been swept into a massive whirlpool, unable to escape. Is this a scheme to entrap his own son? He couldn't help but mutter to himself. Not enough time. Xingqian's words reverberated within Yige's mind once more, carrying an irresistible force. Just then, the surrounding environment underwent tremendous changes. The thatched hut, the misty forest, even Xingqian himself vanished without a trace. A blinding light stabbed at Yige's eyes, and he felt his body falling continuously downward. When he regained consciousness, he found himself lying inside a massive glass dome. He looked around, but found that he was all alone. The dean and Lin Feng were nowhere to be seen, and the entire laboratory was empty save for him lying there in solitude. A sense of inexplicable panic surged through him, and Yige felt his breathing growing rapid. At that moment, a piece of paper fell from the sky, landing softly on his hand. He looked down and saw that the contents of the paper shocked him. It turned out that the dean and Lin Feng had been taken to another space-time by Xingqian. Haha, Yige, we meet again. A familiar and insidious voice broke the silence. Yige looked up and followed the sound, seeing Dr. Zhao's detestable face. A fire of rage surged within his heart, but was quickly suppressed by reason. Yige now wished nothing more than to kill Dr. Zhao and avenge Mu Fei. All his composure and restraint were meaningless at this moment, but reason told him that he couldn't act yet, because he didn't know if Elena was in Dr. Zhao's hands. Dr. Zhao, you've finally revealed your true self, Yige said, his eyes radiating coldness. Was Elena abducted by you? Tell me where she is. Dr. Zhao shuddered, and the steps he had taken forward retreated. He scanned his surroundings, confirming that Elena wasn't to be seen. This caused him a sense of unease, but he quickly regained his composure. After all, this was his territory, and he believed that Yige and Elena couldn't escape his grasp. Yige, it's been so long since we last met, and you're still so scheming, Dr. Zhao said with a forced, humorless smile. You're trying to let Elena launch a surprise attack, aren't you? Let me tell you, don't bother. This is my territory, you can't escape. Yige fixed his gaze intently on Dr. Zhao's eyes, trying to find some clues within them. But to his disappointment, Dr. Zhao's eyes revealed nothing but arrogance and confidence, without any other useful information. So where exactly is Elena? Yige's mind was filled with doubt and worry. But Dr. Zhao's actions also made Yige suspect that Elena hadn't fallen into Dr. Zhao's clutches. Then where in the world is Elena? Fine, let me leave here, and I promise that Elena will absolutely not assassinate you. Yige decided to first stabilize Dr. Zhao, and then look for a chance to escape. Yige, let me tell you, it's not that I'm afraid of you, but out of consideration for us being from the same hometown, I'll temporarily give you some leeway, Dr. Zhao said pretentiously. Let him go. As he said this, the guards surrounding Dr. Zhao cleared a path, allowing Yige to leave. Yige quickly walked to the door, secretly relieved. But he knew that this was only a temporary escape. However, just then, Wonner appeared, out of breath. Doctor, don't be fooled. Yige is lying. Its face was filled with anxiety and worry, clearly indicating that it didn't want Yige to escape so easily. Upon seeing Oinyar appear, Yige's heart tightened. He knew that he couldn't hide the truth any longer. Therefore, he took off running, wanting to flee this dangerous place as quickly as possible. The guards, without the Divine One's instructions, didn't dare to move rashly and could only watch as Yige left. Make yourself clearer. Dr. Zhao roared in fury. Elena is truly missing, and Yige is also looking for her. That's the truth. Only then did Dr. Zhao realize that he had been tricked by his own assumptions. He became enraged, tossing Oinyar onto the ground and ordering the guards to quickly chase after Yige. However, Yige had already run far away, and they could only search through the labyrinthine corridors. Yige ran quickly along the corridors, carefully avoiding the patrolling guards. He knew that he had to escape this place as soon as possible, or else more and more guards would be coming for him. Suddenly, a figure pulled Yige into a hidden room. Just as Yige was about to shout, someone tightly covered his mouth. "Don't shout, it's me." A familiar voice sounded in his ear. Yige saw that Elena was safe and sound, and finally let out a sigh of relief, tightly embracing her. "Are you all right?" "I'm sorry, I didn't protect you well," he said guiltily. Elena gently shook her head, signaling him not to blame himself. "I'll tell you about it later. Let's first think of a way to escape." "I've already found out Dr. Zhao's scheme," she whispered, a grave look on her face. Yige's expression changed drastically, and he looked at Elena nervously, awaiting her next words. What scheme does he have?" Elena took a deep breath and told Yige the news she had uncovered. It turned out that Dr. Zhao's anti-humanity plan was to bury the entire planet in order to obtain the energy for space-time travel. Elena had unintentionally discovered his secret laboratory and learned all of this. That's the same as what I heard. The only thing we have to do now is escape." Chapter 156, Crisis Era, Collapse of the Divine One. Yige and Elena cooperated, planning their escape from the Divine One Palace. Unsurprisingly, more and more Divine One guards were converging toward the main hall. Of course, that wasn't enough. Dr. Zhao had also mobilized thugs and bandits from the outer city to join the forces. At first, Yige and Elena were relatively successful. However, later on, the two of them walked into a dead end. At that moment, a group of guards happened to pass by, and they spotted Yige and Elena. They pointed their spears at Yige, forcing him and the others into the dead end. Fortunately, these guards considered themselves smart. The luck of this momentous occasion couldn't be shared. They glanced at each other, not shouting loudly. Yige and Elena were forced to the very end of the alley, with no path to escape. Yige looked at Elena, his eyes filled with determination and trust. He handed the quark sword to Elena, and the mysterious sword radiated a soft light, as if containing boundless power. Elena took the sword, gripping the hilt tightly, feeling the power that was transmitted from the sword. She knew that this struggle had to be dealt with quickly, or else they would be trapped to death in this dead end. Just then, the guards couldn't wait any longer and launched their attacks. They waved their spears, violently stabbing towards Yige and Elena. Yige hurriedly dodged, somewhat pathetically avoiding the spear attacks. Elena held the quark sword tightly, the sword light flashing, instantly felling two guards. The guards were stunned by what they saw. They hadn't imagined that this woman would be so powerful. However, Elena didn't give them a chance to catch their breath and continuously launched fierce attacks at the guards. The quark sword danced vigorously in Elena's hands, and each flash would fell a guard. The guards simply couldn't fathom Elena's figure and could only passively take a beating. Before long, the ground was littered with the guards' corpses. Seeing that the situation was unfavorable, the remaining guards turned to flee. Yige and Elena didn't chase them, because they knew that the most important thing now was to escape this dangerous place as soon as possible. When Yige and Elena ran out of the alley, another group of guards came to welcome them. This time, they had become smarter. Found them. This sound was like poking a hornet's nest. The guards quickly surged towards them. The cold light of the spears reflected on their faces, and each guard's face was filled with joy. In their eyes, this was a stroke of good fortune that had descended upon them. "Don't stab them into sieves. I want them alive. Capture Yige alive, and get a reward of 1,000 gold, and 3 days of pleasure in the wine pool and meat forest." This voice was like a propellant, igniting the greed in the hearts of these guards. Hearing that order, the guards' eyes lit up. They looked greedily at Yige and Elena, as if they had already seen their future wealth and luxury. They waved their spears, shouting and rushing towards the two. Yige's heart tightened. He knew that he had no kung fu, and in the face of these fierce, wolf-like guards, he stood no chance. However, he didn't retreat, and instead stood tightly beside Elena, ready to help her at any time. Elena, on the other hand, showed no fear. She held the quark sword tightly, her eyes filled with determination and courage. She knew that this battle would have to depend on her alone. The guards' attacks became increasingly fierce, and they waved their spears, trying to force Yige and Elena into a desperate situation. However, Elena was like a bolt of lightning, darting freely between the guards. Her figure was sometimes to the left, sometimes to the right, sometimes above, sometimes below, dazzling to the eyes. Whenever a guard attacked, Elena would always accurately judge the other party's attack route, and then skillfully dodge it. At the same time, the quark sword in her hand also continuously waved out, and each swing of the sword would take away a guard's life. The guards simply couldn't fathom Elena's figure, and they could only passively take a beating. Before long, the ground was littered with the guards' corpses, while Elena stood there unharmed. Seeing that the situation was unfavorable, the remaining guards turned to flee. They knew that this woman was simply not someone they could deal with. In the confusion, Elena pulled Yige and directly broke through the encirclement of the soldiers. They ran quickly, with the throng of pursuers behind them. Damn, these guards are endless. What do we do? Don't worry, there's a cover over there. Let's hide first, then think of a way to leave this place. As they spoke, the two of them hid in an alley. Looking left and right to make sure there were no pursuers, they hid inside a giant stone statue's armor. The two had just hidden when a group of guards ran towards them. Where are they? Damn, did you even see them clearly? That's a ticket for 1,000 gold and the wine pool and meat forest. If you lose them, I'm going to go have fun at your house. Anyway, your wife has some beauty. Hearing this, the soldier's voice trembled. They're right here. But there's no one here. Tell me. This captain was obviously angered by the soldier's behavior. He now regretted believing in the abilities of a mere soldier. Of course, he was even more annoyed that this incredible fortune had been snatched away by others. The soldier had also gone mad. Captain, you can't do this to me. My wife is pregnant. These words made Yige indignant. Were these even human? At that instant, the entire stone armor moved, and everyone's gazes all looked over. Shoo! The captain made a silencing gesture, leading the team to walk towards the armor where Yige was. What do we do? No idea? Yige and Elena exchanged glances, clearly a situation they hadn't considered. Just as the two were about to be exposed, a familiar voice was heard by Yige once more, and the guards also stood at attention, looking back at that group of people. Why are you wasting time here instead of going to capture the Divine One's playthings? Reporting, sir. We found that this helmet has problems, suspecting that there are people inside, so we came to investigate. No need to investigate. These are ambush troops that I've laid down. You can leave. The owner of this voice was Silu, the leader of the bandits outside the city. Through the gaps in the armor, Yige saw that Silu was now wearing the advanced combat uniform of a Divine One guard. The level was already beyond the reach of the captain in front of him. Seeing that these people didn't move, Silu said with coldness and majesty, "What? You don't even listen to me." "Sir, it's just that this matter is of great importance. We personally saw those two running towards this side. If we don't check now, we'll be letting down the Divine One's cultivation." "Haha, good. I see that you're not loyal to the Divine One, but interested in that 1,000 gold and the wine pool and meat forest. Otherwise, why didn't you report it immediately when you discovered the enemy's trail?" This captain panicked when his thoughts were exposed. His words became clumsy. Silu snorted coldly. "You come out. Let this sir see whether you are the people they are looking for." As soon as the words fell, the armor moved. Soon, a guard walked out of the armor. "I heard everything you just said. I'll be reporting your sins to the Divine One later. You can wait for your punishment." That captain was scared witless and knelt down. "Sir, spare me. Killing you dirties my hands. I'll give you a chance to atone for your sins. Immediately take your men and go to the west gate. The trail of those two has been found there. If you dare to act on your own again this time, even if the Divine One is merciful, he will not spare you. Understand?" These guards ran towards the west gate in a craven manner. On the way, there were many people like them. Each person's face was filled with fear. Having learned from the previous example, these people dared not to inquire with each other and could only charge towards the west gate with their heads buried. Silu looked at the helmet where Yige was and didn't immediately recognize him. Instead, he continued to patrol with his confidants. After confirming that there were no other guards nearby, he turned back. Yige, it's me, Silu said to the armor. The armor moved, and Yige walked out of it. Silu, what are you doing here? Chapter 157, Crisis Era, Collapse of the Divine One, 2. We were preparing to attack the Divine Palace and struggling with how to get inside the inner city. Who knew that a decree from the Divine One would summon us inside? This is an unexpected stroke of luck for us. Silu's voice held a hint of unease. This is a good thing. Why do you look so worried? Yige looked at him in confusion. Silu took a deep breath. We want to fire the first shot in the resistance against the Divine One. But he paused, his voice trembling slightly. We're struggling because we haven't found evidence of the Divine One's crimes. This Divine One, he occupied your wife, built wine pools and meat forests. Isn't that enough? Yige countered. Silu didn't respond. Yige knew he'd said the wrong thing. Is that enough? Definitely not. Otherwise, Silu would have already convinced everyone to attack the Divine Palace. Why wait until now? Silence fell over the area, the atmosphere heavy. Suddenly, a voice broke the silence. I know of one of Dr. Zhao's laboratories. Perhaps you can find what you're looking for inside. Dr. Zhao? The one you call the Divine One. Silu had a sudden realization, staring at Elena. You are? She's Elena. The group talked as they walked, and Yige finally understood where Elena had been all this time. She had been rescued by Yang Lu from the star chain, heavenly stems, and earthly branches. When she woke up, she set out to find Yige. After hearing that Yige had come to the Divine Palace, she had followed him. She didn't see Dr. Zhao disguised as Ryan, but the real Dr. Zhao. Elena was shocked at the time and closely followed Dr. Zhao, which is how she discovered this laboratory. As they spoke, the group arrived at the laboratory. Elena had already stolen the password. She entered a string of code on the wall, and the door to the laboratory quickly opened. As the door slowly opened, an indescribable stench assailed their noses, making them want to vomit. Covering their noses and mouths, they cautiously walked inside. However, the next second, they all rushed out, retching uncontrollably. After composing themselves, they re-entered the laboratory. The entire laboratory was like a hell on earth. The walls, floor, and even the ceiling were stained with blood. Various oddly shaped experimental instruments were scattered all over the place, some still containing fragments of unidentified creatures. They saw a giant glass container filled with human bodies, their skin rotting, their eyes empty and lifeless, as if enduring endless pain. Next to the container were piles of bones, clearly the remains of those unfortunate victims. Elena's hands trembled as she picked up a discarded experimental log. She turned the pages, reading the words and seeing the images that recorded Dr. Zhao's inhumane experiments on human bodies, including live dissections, organ transplants, drug trials, and more. Every page was filled with blood and horror, making it impossible to look directly at. Her eyes flashed with anger and hatred, as if she wanted to burn this sinful world to ashes. Yige and Silu also saw everything, their gazes equally filled with anger and hatred. They clenched their fists, their teeth grinding, their hearts filled with anger and hatred toward this so-called Divine One. They couldn't imagine that this insane person could treat innocent lives in such a cruel way. This beast, Silu roared, kicking over a glass bottle full of reagents. We must avenge these people. Calm down. Yige took a deep breath. What we need now is evidence. Evidence to bring this criminal to justice. They continued to search the laboratory, hoping to find more incriminating evidence against Dr. Zhao. Every corner, every item could be the key to uncovering the truth. Finally, in a hidden compartment, they found a secret order. It documented Dr. Zhao's collusion with a mysterious organization, as well as their planned Divine Selections project. This mysterious organization was called Shadow of the Divine. They had two goals. First, to obtain the secret to eternal youth through various anti-human organ transplant experiments. Second, to achieve energy conservation by harming innocent people to obtain energy and ultimately leave this star system. And Dr. Zhao had successfully gained the trust of the shadow leaders through his methods, since everyone wanted to be eternally young. Next, Dr. Zhao would initiate the energy conservation project. Yige's heart skipped a beat. Could the not enough time that Yi Xingqian mentioned refer to this project? Recalling his conversation with Yi Xingqian in the misty forest, Yige felt a pang of fear, suspecting that he had been tricked by his old man again. Silu, what do you plan to do now? He's not a divine one at all. He's a demon walking among humans. I'm going to kill him. Yige followed Silu to a plaza. As Silu appeared from the passage where the divine one usually appeared, everyone knelt down in worship. I am not your divine one. I am Silu. And the divine one is not a divine one either. He is a demon walking among humans. Before Silu could finish speaking, the people in the plaza began to denounce him, cursing him for being ungrateful, especially those without children, who had sent their wives into the divine palace and then rejoiced in the birth of a child. They frantically defended the divine one. With green pastures on their heads, they still believe this is light. Yige watched from the side, wanting to laugh. Were these people beyond saving? But Silu wasn't angry at all. His goal was to gather the Divine One's believers together and then reveal the ugly things the Divine One had done, to completely pull the Divine One down from his pedestal. But Dr. Zhao didn't give Silu that chance. Look, a big bird. It's a fire phoenix, bringing peace and wealth to those who see it. Last time I saw the big bird, I even got an iron egg and was able to marry a wife. For a moment, everyone cast envious glances. Yige looked up. What fire phoenix? It was a Blue Jay fighter jet, the pinnacle of Earth's technological civilization. He didn't expect Dr. Zhao to have contributed the technology to West Continent. However, this also exposed who Shadow of the Divine was. In the entire West Continent, only that place could have such a civilization. The Blue Jay skimmed across the plaza. The crowd in the plaza began to stir, their gazes drawn to the plane. Get down quickly. Yige signaled to Silu, but Silu didn't listen. That fire phoenix is just an illusion that Dr. Zhao is using to deceive you. He is not a divine one at all, but a complete and utter demon. Silu roared, his voice filled with anger and grief. He exploits your faith, deceives you, harms innocent lives, all for his own selfish desires. The crowd began to murmur, looking at each other, unsure how to believe that the person they had always regarded as the Divine One was actually a demon. Just then, Dr. Zhao's voice suddenly rang out in the sky, his voice like thunder, hurting people's eardrums. Who are you? Who am I? Haha, who am I? Don't you recognize me after you've ordered me to do so many dirty deeds? It doesn't matter who you are anymore. Today you have offended the Divine One, so there is only one path left for the rest of your life, and that is the path to the Yellow Springs. Dr. Zhao dove down, piloting the Blue Jay. Wunner was gleefully firing from the machine gunner position, fortunate that the cat's marksmanship wasn't accurate. Silu saw a ranged weapon for the first time, recalling the prone position that Yige had just demonstrated. In a reflex, he dodged, hiding under a nearby tin-roofed building. It seemed safe, but Dr. Zhao didn't want to see that result. Amidst the crowd's shouts, the fire phoenix they had been thinking of suddenly emitted a piercing shriek, followed by another iron egg falling down. No one realized the danger that was coming. They were still dreaming of getting rich. When getting something for nothing becomes a virtue, your life is not far from death. In contrast, Silu had run down long ago, coming to Yige's side. What are you spacing out for? Run. Shouldn't we save them? Don't they worship the Divine One? Then let the Divine One save them. After saying these words, Yige hurriedly pulled Silu to safety. The iron egg landed on the ground, instantly popping out sparks, igniting the surrounding flammable materials. The raging flames shot straight into the sky. The people in the plaza were in chaos. Fire! Run! People fled in panic. Dr. Zhao, however, watched all this with a cold smile. He had a remote control in his hand and lightly pressed a button. Suddenly, high walls rose up from all around the plaza, trapping the people inside. With Dr. Zhao's operation, the flames became more intense, instantly engulfing the entire plaza in a sea of fire. You ignorant people, pay the price for your faith in this sea of fire. Dr. Zhao sneered, his voice filled with madness and cruelty. The people in the plaza never waited for their Divine One to descend. Those past deities had never appeared again. When they turned to ashes, their eyes were still open. Elsewhere, The Blue Jay fighter jet was parked on a platform on the back mountain. Dr. Zhao was leisurely watching the screen, which showed the fire he had unleashed. Haha, a bunch of fools, perfect for balancing my accounts. All those dead souls will be counted on your heads, so I can have an explanation. If more fools like that pop up, my plan can be realized sooner. Yes, Master is mighty. We will definitely be able to go to that place. At that time, Master will become the greatest scientist of all mankind, revered by 10,000 people. Wonder licked its paws. Having been with Dr. Zhao for so long, its thinking had improved somewhat, and it had even learned to flatter him. Hee 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 ha ha ha. Dr. Zhao laughed smugly, but the laughter came to an abrupt stop, because three figures appeared at the entrance of the cave. Yige and Dr. Zhao finally stood face to face. Yige stared intently at the man in front of him, his eyes filled with doubt and wariness. Doctor, what a coincidence. Dr. Zhao smiled slightly and nodded. That's right, I was waiting for you. What? Do you want to kill me? Yige clenched his fists. Yes, I especially want to kill you, to avenge Mu Fei. You? Ha ha ha. A mantis trying to stop a chariot. I wouldn't be afraid even if Xingchen stood in front of me. Why would I fear his son? That's for sure. After all, you now have Shadow of the Divine as a strong backer. But you have to understand, it's very easy for me to kill you. In reality, Yige wasn't prepared at all. He thought that Dr. Zhao would run away as soon as he saw them, never expecting this situation. What should I do now? Yige's heart began to sink. He could only talk big. After all, in this era, bragging doesn't require taxes. Dr. Zhao habitually pushed up his glasses. A gleam flashed through his eyes. You know about Shadow of the Divine? Hee hee, how many years have you been in West Continent, and you've already come into contact with Shadow of the Divine? Would you believe me if I said I was the son of God? This shocked Dr. Zhao, because the heir of the Shadow of the Divine organization was called the Son of God. From Dr. Zhao's expression, Yige knew that he had bet correctly. What? If you don't believe me, you can go to Kunlun Ruins. No, you should call it Atlantis and ask. A look of surprise flashed in Dr. Zhao's eyes, but he quickly recovered his composure. He didn't directly answer Yige's question, but instead asked, You're really the Son of God? Yes. Why aren't you kneeling and saluting? Haha, Yige, you're not part of Shadow of the Divine at all. Yige was stunned. He didn't expect Dr. Zhao to say that. The corners of Dr. Zhao's mouth curled into a strange smile. Yige, stop trying to deceive me. You probably haven't even been to the 3,000 divine kingdoms. How could you have reached Kunlun Ruins? Let me guess, how did you find out about these places? That's right. The divine temples suddenly rose in West Continent. You must have read some information there. Yes, that must be it. You were very good at ancient literature when you were at Shanghai University. I guess that's not difficult for you. Is that right? Yige also breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that Dr. Zhao still didn't think that his laboratory had been exposed. Since he thought so, let him think so. However, he should still argue a little, in case Dr. Zhao was also trying to trick him. Presumptuous. I am the Son of God. Stop it. If you're really the Son of God, I'll let you kill me with 1,000 cuts and avenge your little girlfriend. However, you have to pass the test. Immediately after, a ball of light appeared behind Dr. Zhao. As long as you come and activate this ball of light, I will believe that you are the Son of God. What do you say? Yige was grateful that he hadn't admitted it, or else he wouldn't be able to approach Dr. Zhao. Yige gave Elena a knowing look. Still so tacit, Elena instantly understood. Dr. Zhao took in all of Yige's expressions, urging him to hurry up and take the test. Just as Yige approached Dr. Zhao suddenly activated the mechanism around him. A crack appeared on the ground, trapping Yige and the others inside. An unknown gas gushed out, and Yige fell into unconsciousness. When Yige woke up again, he found himself trapped in a confined space. Dr. Zhao was nowhere to be seen. We've been tricked. Yige's heart sank. He knew that he had been played by Dr. Zhao. After Yige woke up, he found that he, Silu, and Elena were trapped in a confined space. They felt around, trying to find an exit, but there was nothing but cold walls around them. We were tricked by Dr. Zhao, Yige said in a deep voice. I wanted to subdue him, I didn't expect to fall for this old fox's tricks. What do we do now? Silu asked anxiously. We have to find a way out. Yige took a deep breath, trying to calm himself down. He knew that the most important thing now was to stay calm and find a way to escape. He carefully observed the surroundings and found that there seemed to be some faint carvings on the wall. What do these carvings mean? Yige muttered to himself. Elena came over to take a look and suddenly exclaimed, "These carvings are the script of the silicon-based civilization. Do you understand the language of the Inner Earth people?" Yige looked at Elena in surprise. Elena nodded. "I don't understand, but I saw Chung's memorial in the Inner Earth world." Yige was surprised at first, and then relieved. Elena had half of Chung's genes. It was only natural for Chung to be enthusiastic about Elena. However, the joy of just now turned into disappointment. He originally thought that Elena could understand the words above to find the exit, but it seemed that this was not the case. We can only think of other ways. As soon as Yige's words fell, Elena picked up a piece of paper, which was written in simplified Chinese. "Save me. Dr. Zhao is going to kill me. This is a map of the secret passage. You can return to the Divine Palace from here." The signature was Ryan. Could this be a trick? It shouldn't be. Then why is Dr. Zhao killing Ryan? I haven't figured it out yet. After all, Ryan is Dr. Zhao's double. He shouldn't really kill Ryan. As she spoke, Yige pulled Elena and finally found the wall according to the instructions. There were several protrusions on the wall. Yige pressed them in the order written on the letter. With a click, the wall slowly rose up, revealing a passage. Great! We can finally get out. Elena jumped up happily. Chapter 158, Crisis Era, Collapse of the Divine One, 3. When Yige and the others returned to the inner city, the fire had been extinguished, and the city's situation had quickly been stabilized by the Divine One. This didn't surprise Yige at all. After all, Dr. Zhao's strength was there. The three of them simply disguised themselves and entered the Divine Palace city. Unlike before, there were more guards at the city gates. There were 3 more portraits on the notice board and a piece of animal skin, listing the crimes of Yige and others, the contents of which could be described as too numerous to count. Of course, all of this was fake. What a great opportunity, but the Divine One escaped again. In a tavern inside the city, near the window, 3 men dressed as rough laborers were drinking wine and quietly voicing their dissatisfaction. Consider yourself lucky. Silu is also grateful that only you stood up, or else your 100 or so brothers and clansmen would have suffered too. But we still have to hurry, or else once Dr. Zhao comes to his senses, your outer city will definitely be wiped out. Then what should I do now? The men looked at each other. There was nothing they could do in this situation. At this moment, a commotion broke out on the street. Have you heard? Divine ones from other divine mountains have also come to our divine palace city. It seems like something big is going to happen. So your news is even more outdated than mine. The Divine Ones are here for a trial. It seems that the Divine One in our Divine Palace City has broken some rules and must be put on trial. Could it be the Fire Phoenix that caused trouble a few days ago? Sure. I heard that they are going to publicly punish the Divine One in the plaza. We have to find more jars. Why do we need those? You don't understand? That's the Divine One's blood. I heard that eating it can cure all diseases and prolong life. Yige listened to these absurd words, feeling sorry for these people, but he didn't bother to care. He suddenly remembered the note that Ryan left him, saying that someone wanted to kill Ryan. Now everything connected. Why would Dr. Zhao kill Ryan? To balance the books. Hearing this, Yige stared at Elena and instantly understood. Because of Shadow of the Divine's plan, the Divine One had done many outrageous things in this city, causing a rebellion in the entire Divine Palace City. At this time, someone had to stand up and take responsibility so that they could continue to be powerful in this city. And the person who was used to balance the books was Ryan. Thinking of this, Yige's voice became even lower. This may be an opportunity. We must seize it, or else we will be very passive. The plaza was already filled with people watching the show, and Sila's men had also successfully mixed in. They mingled in this group, confirming safety with each other through eye contact. There was a row of thrones on the viewing platform, each made of pure gold, the sunlight reflecting off them, making it difficult for the people on the plaza to open their eyes. Seated on the thrones were some blonde-haired, blue-eyed people. Yige glanced at them and recognized them as the descendants of the Sirius star system. It seemed that Xingqian hadn't lied to me. It turned out that this world was really related to the new Earth world. Thinking of this, Yige felt that it was a bit rash for them to start a war now, and they could at least try to get the support of East Continent. Yige looked at the cheering people in the plaza, not knowing what to say. The divine ones, whom these devout believers were supporting with their hard-earned money, were enjoying a life of luxury, while they could only live in one beautiful dream after another, and this dream was given by the divine ones. Even the bodies of these believers or their descendants had become nourishment for these divine ones, providing them with their beautiful youthful years. It seemed that only their youth could be described with years. Yige felt that it was impossible to reason with them. Soon, Ryan was escorted to the execution ground. A dispassionate but loud voice listed Ryan's crimes. Hearing these crimes, the people in the plaza were even more indignant, wishing they could kill Ryan immediately. The man asked, "Ryan, do you know your crime?" Yige believed that no one in the plaza heard Ryan confessing, but were looking forward to Ryan being beheaded as soon as possible. At this moment, they were blind. They didn't care about Ryan's mouth being blocked. What they cared about was that the divine ones were fair, and that if they made a mistake, they would be punished as well. They cared more about how much blood of the divine one they could grab later. He heard that this thing could already be sold for 10 cows on the black market. The man continued, "Although you are a divine one, you have violated the law, so only your death can we live up to the devout believers and give them fairness. In the past, you rode on their heads and acted wildly, and today you can only use your head to redeem your sins. Since you have confessed, then let the execution begin." As he spoke, the man left. Immediately afterwards, the executioner took a sip of wine and sprayed it on the broadsword. Not to mention Ryan. Those who were close to the execution ground felt a chill on their necks. Swish! Ryan's head rolled down, and blood flowed down the blade. This was the first time the executioner saw silver-white blood. He was distraught, and when he was leaving the execution ground, he accidentally fell off the platform. He also died, trampled to death by those who rushed forward to grab the divine one, blood. But those who trampled him to death didn't think so. They thought that the executioner had died from the backlash of the divine one. Didn't you hear that the man was also shouting, "The divine one cannot be blasphemed"? These words made everyone in the plaza kneel down. Yes, the divine one could not be blasphemed. But what were they doing? Although this blood of the divine one could be exchanged for 10 cows, 10 cows were not necessarily more valuable than living well. The executioner's end was the best example. Silu and others who understood the truth became even more angry. They stood straight. "You're talking nonsense." Rude. Immediately afterwards, a burst of bullets came flying. During this period of time, Silu had also learned about the Divine One's weapons through Yige. When this gun came out, Silu subconsciously dodged. If it hadn't been for the crowd in the plaza, he would have been riddled with holes. The group dodged and found a room, which happened to cover the Divine One's line of sight. What do we do now? Let me think. Yige looked at the wailing crowd in the plaza, and then at the rough man next to him, and threw a piece of animal skin to him. "You have a loud voice. You shout." The rough man looked at the animal skin. He knew all the words, but he didn't know what they meant when they were put together, so he looked down at Silu. "What are you looking at me for? Do whatever he tells you." The loudmouth shouted at the plaza. "Those people are the same as us. They're not divine ones at all. You've all been deceived. If they were divine ones, they wouldn't die. But now they're dead. What do you think they are?" Sometimes not giving an answer is more effective than giving an answer. Many people followed the logic and deduced, "Not divine ones, they're people. They can also die. They're not divine ones at all." These words spread from the mouths of the crowd in the plaza, as if they had magic. Soon, they spread throughout the crowd. "The golden thrones under their asses are our hard-earned money that we save on food and clothing. Why should we give our hard-earned money to them? We want happiness, we want life. Give us back our money." The loudmouth understood these words, and his shout was even more appealing. Words such as "give us back our money," "happiness," and "life" began to rise and fall in the plaza. Seeing that the atmosphere had reached its peak, Yige threw another piece of animal skin to the loudmouth. "Shout, shout together. Shout with all your strength." The blue sky is dead, the yellow sky will rise. The year is Jiazi, and there will be great fortune. Thunder God help me. This voice penetrated the hearts of the people like a curse. Yige, Elena, and Silu disappeared from the crowd's sight. The crowd in the plaza didn't know what these words meant, but they felt that they were very powerful. Everyone shouted loudly. This day was no longer the day it used to be, and man would conquer heaven. The blue sky is dead. Thunder God help me. At this time, a thunderclap came from the viewing platform. The Divine Ones were originally watching the show, but they didn't expect that these savages would have ranged weapons in their hands, and they panicked. They weren't wearing armor, because they were afraid that these gunpowder and iron scraps would hurt them. This thunderclap happened to stain these people's most treasured skin with blood, and they couldn't accept it for a while. Damn it, these savages are too abominable. They deserve to be nourishment. Yes, immediately order the army to raze this place to the ground. Tell Dr. Zhao that Shadow of the Divine agrees to his energy conservation plan. These people transmitted the on-site video data back to the Divine Mountain, which was furious, because the actions of Yige and others had seriously insulted the self-esteem of these Divine Ones. Yige stepped forward, his appearance still disguised as a rough man, and this appearance was exactly what these Divine Ones, who were usually high above, hated. Get away, you dirty savage. You insult our eyes. Oh, this skin was given by my parents. How did it become dirty? Or, are your eyes originally dirty? Seeing that these people still looked disgusted, Yige also smiled. You better figure out the current situation. Look around. These are all our people. The Divine Ones then took out a video communicator, very proud. Don't worry, soon this area will become our people. Yige's eyes lit up. He thought of a good idea.
Thanks.
Elena directly snatched the video communicator. About 10 minutes later, white canvas was set up in the plaza, and images quickly appeared on these canvas. Look, the Divine One has appeared. Sure enough, the Divine One did not abandon us. This is the divine being they have descended. Woohoo! These people gathered happily in the Divine Palace Plaza. Silu was also frightened by this scene. Also frightened were their younger brothers. Just as Silu was about to kneel down, Yige chuckled. Silu, you keep saying that you are an atheist. It turns out that you are all liars. But it's daytime flying. If there are no Divine Ones in this world, then tell me what this is. This is just a simple video projection technology. It can be easily implemented with a knockoff mobile phone. Knockoff, I know. But what is this mobile phone? Ugh, never mind. It's useless to tell you anyway. You won't understand. You just keep watching. This is to expose the contents of the laboratory, completely uncovering the deception of these people.
What?
Silu, it's your turn to play next. As he spoke, Yige whispered something in Silu's ear. Silu led his brothers and left quickly. Yige then came to these noble Divine Ones. Your ugliness will soon be exposed to the devout believers. If they know how you deceive them, what kind of scene do you think it will be? Hee, they will all become energy sooner or later. What if they know? You better disappear from my face quickly. Soon this place will be surrounded by a large army. These Divine Ones were still arrogant. They didn't seem to care about the truth that was about to be revealed. However, Yige saw a trace of unease in their eyes. At this time, a new picture suddenly appeared on the white canvas in the plaza. It was the laboratory deep in the Divine Palace City, and it was imprisoning many innocent people, and they were being treated as experimental products and suffering in human torture. What is this? The crowd in the square began to riot. They looked at the pictures on the canvas, their faces showing terrified and angry expressions. This is what the Divine One you worship does. Yige shouted loudly. They use your flesh and blood and faith to exchange their eternal youth and immortality. Wake up, brothers and sisters. They are not Divine Ones at all, but a group of demons in human skin. But we can all eat enough after the Divine One came. That should be right, right? That's because you didn't see your loved ones in these corpses. If the organs of your children were transplanted away by these people, would you still think so? Silence, silence. Tell me, will you? They are giving you enough to eat, but they are imprisoning your thoughts. What is the difference between you and the pigs, cows, and sheep you keep in the barn? You are people, living people, with thinking saints, never those livestock. and the divine one in your mouth. Use the money you save to eat and drink and lavish their lives. Use the bodies of your relatives and friends to support their ageless faces, and used your wives and sisters to satisfy their endless desires. Is such a divine the divine in your mind? There were a lot of things Yige couldn't say, because on this vast land of West Continent, there were different levels of civilization, and it was difficult for summer worms to speak of ice. And these words were just right, because the image displayed on the white curtain was exactly like this. These believers were completely crazy. At this time, those divine ones also revealed their true colors. You are so dirty. You deserve to die. Haha, extremely stupid savages. It is your honor to have your bodies used by us. Yes, yes, since you want to die, then fulfill you. As soon as the divine ones finished speaking, there was a shocking roar in the square. Those who had been pious believers had now turned into angry mobs, and they rushed to those divine ones, wanting to tear them into pieces. At this time, there was a sudden loud noise from the depths of the divine palace city. Immediately afterwards, a powerful force gushed out from the ground, shaking the entire divine palace city until it was about to collapse. Dr. Zhao, you are too late. Stupid barbarians, your death is coming, and you will die miserably. Saying this, these divine ones removed the shields, stood on the high platform, wishing they could kill Yige right now. I really don't know where you got your confidence from. Since you don't have shields, then try the taste of this first. Saying this, Yige threw a grenade and ran away in a puff of smoke. Who is he anyway? Where did he get these ranged weapons? Old Zhao, where are you? If you don't come out to judge, I will personally kill him. Chapter 159, Crisis Era, Collapse of the Divine One, 4. In that moment, the Divine One's ugly side was completely revealed, and what they didn't know was that these images had appeared on the sky screens across West Continent, including East Continent. According to East Continent historians, this moment marked the first year of the Crisis Era, with the Divine One's collapse originating from a mirage. The 22 reconnaissance teams of the Heavenly Stems and Earthly Branches were secretly doing these things, and Elena's contributions were essential. Yige didn't know any of this yet. By the time Yige learned all of this, the intergalactic defense war had already begun. Divine Palace City, in the plaza. Those devout believers were no longer prostrate. Hee, the divine one I've been scrimping and saving to worship is actually such a selfish divine one. Disgusting. No, these people aren't divine ones at all. They have birth, old age, sickness, and death just like us. No, they're not like us. We're human because we still have a bottom line. But they're not even as good as animals. The blue sky is dead. The yellow sky will rise. Today the thunder god helps us. We will slay these divine ones. At that moment, no more incitement was needed. The crowd was furious. The former believers now picked up weapons in their hands, beginning a war with their former faith. Those high and mighty divine ones could only sneer. Savages like ants are thinking of resisting? It seems that this divine palace city isn't being managed very well. That person's death wasn't unjustified. Since you want the thunder god to help you, let's let you try the power of thunder and lightning, shall we? Among them, one divine one, dressed in white, with white everywhere in sight, sneered. With a wave of his hand, he threw out a wire mesh. There were many tentacles on this wire mesh, extending to every corner of the plaza. At the top of this wire mesh was a towering spike, reaching straight into the sky. What is this? Everyone, including Silu, was stunned. They had never seen anything like this before. As the wire mesh fell, Yige ran into the plaza. Taking advantage of the crowd, he grabbed a piece of the wire mesh and walked towards the edge of the high platform. The divine ones were happily playing around like they were watching monkeys, not noticing Yige's actions at all. The people in the plaza began to panic, and Yige had already hidden under the high platform. Silu, quickly evacuate the plaza. Danger! Yige gestured to Silu. He taught Silu these gestures after the last failed action, and Silu quickly understood. He shouted, urging everyone to leave the plaza as soon as possible. The corner of that divine one's mouth lifted slightly. Wanna run? Ha ha ha, it's a little late now. Since you all want the thunder god to help you so much, let's let you try the power of thunder. Immediately afterward, the Divine One threw a spherical object into the air. This sphere, equipped with wings, flew into the clouds, and then the sphere split in half, pushing the clouds closer together. After that, a bolt of lightning struck directly towards the plaza. Die, ants! Silu and the others fled in panic, while those Divine Ones laughed even more unscrupulously. Woohoo! A gloating sound came from the viewing platform. Yige looked at the civilians who were injured by the lightning, and a surge of anger rose in his heart. Taking advantage of the time before the third lightning strike, he grabbed the tentacles on the ground and tied them directly to the high platform. After doing all of this, Yige rushed out of the high platform. You bunch of bastards, you'll eventually be punished. Haha, how laughable. Another Divine One, dressed in light blue clothes, sneered, I recognize you. You're the ant who threw the grenade, aren't you? Haha, don't think your little tricks can hurt us. We just didn't want to get our clothes dirty. Since you want us to be punished, what will it be? Strong winds, heavy rain, thunder, or an earthquake? That light blue-clad goddess smiled even more brightly. Ha ha ha, we created all of these. Do you want to try them? As she spoke, another sphere flew out. Yige frowned deeply. He couldn't understand how these Divine Ones were doing all of this, but he understood that this was definitely not magic. It was more like a weapon. Yige had seen a hypothesis about weather weapons in the Shanghai University Library, so these things were very likely weather weapons. Before Yige could react, a strong wind rose, blowing Yige away. At this time, Elena appeared behind Yige in time. That's why Yige wasn't badly injured. Elena didn't dare to stay for long. She dragged Yige and ran quickly towards the inner city. The third thunderclap descended again. A ball of lightning struck down, and the entire plaza was instantly shrouded in dazzling electric light. Then a rumbling sound came, as if the end of the world had arrived, about to collapse the Divine Palace City. Those Divine Ones still watched this scene mockingly, like the nobles in the classical Colosseum watching slaves being slaughtered by animals. Their eyes were full of joy, without the slightest sense of guilt. Then let them also try the taste of thunder and lightning, shall we? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yige gestured, you can't, to the high platform and pulled Elena towards the outer city. It was impossible to stay here any longer. Those Divine Ones were extremely angry, throwing out one ball after another. Damn humans, let me make you try to see what you said will be punished in the end? The balls were thrown out, but those Divine Ones were still on the high platform. At this time, explosions rang out, and the entire high platform turned to powder, the dust rising and then scattering on the ground. Yige stood on the city wall, nervously watching the high platform. After the dust settled, a light curtain appeared in Yige's vision. Damn it, they were unscathed. This was the advantage of civilization level. Yes, in these people's eyes, we were ants. But ants were not so easily crushed. Yige's fists clenched tightly, as if he wanted to draw blood. You must die today. These Divine Ones roared, and immediately countless flying balls appeared. Then let you try our shadow of the Divine's true strength. These flying balls split into two, and then kept copying. Looking up, the sky was full of flying balls with wings. Die! As the Divine One's voice fell, these flying balls generated huge wind power, like a Category 5 hurricane, rushing towards Yige and Elena. Even with Elena's agility, she couldn't escape at all, and Yige was still by her side at this moment. Knowing that they really couldn't escape this time, Yige immediately turned around, embraced Elena, and wrapped Elena in his body. Let go, Yige. Let go of me. Yige didn't say a word. What are you doing? Yige, let go. You'll die. Yige still didn't speak. Clear tears flowed from Elena's eyes. At this moment, she truly felt Yige's love. Yige, you've changed. Have I? It's not bad to end like this. Faced with powerful biological weapons, Yige's flesh and blood couldn't stop it at all. He chose to resign himself to fate. Elena buried her head deeply in Yige's chest. The strong wind blew up sand and gravel, broke off leaves, and scattered debris on the ground. The houses and the earth seemed to be torn apart, and Yige hugged Elena tightly. This was the only thing he could do. Elena was selflessly giving to him, but Yige couldn't accommodate Elena in his heart. I'm sorry, Mu Fei. Maybe we'll meet soon. Bang! Yige was thrown hard out of the city and fell into the sand. These divine ones drove dune buggies towards Yige's landing point, their knives gleaming. Kid, do you regret it? This is the consequence of offending shadow of the divine. As he spoke, the man stabbed the knife in his hand hard into the sand. Damn it! His knife was broken in half. Before he could react, a figure appeared from the sand pile, a dagger sharp in the sunlight, shining with cold light, making it impossible for people to open their eyes. When this divine one opened his eyes, he looked at the front in surprise, knelt in the sand, and covered his neck with both hands. How is this possible? You killed me. My companions won't spare you. Shadow of the divine won't spare you. Elena looked at those divine ones, who were running away, too lazy to pay attention to this divine one, kneeling on the ground. She turned back to the sandpit just now and kept digging the sand with both hands. In the distance, Dr. Zhao rode on a mammoth, and next to him was a majestic pharaoh. The divine one is dead? Yes, the revenge of shadow of the divine is about to come. Now the only way is to kill those two, so that we can also have an explanation in the face of shadow of the divine, right? The pharaoh, dressed man, frowned. He now regretted coming to support Divine Palace City, and regretted even more listening to Dr. Zhao's instructions to stay where he was. Now he could only grit his teeth and go forward. He waved the flag, and the soldiers behind him moved quickly in the direction where Elena was. This pharaoh took the lead and rushed out. Yellow sand was everywhere, and the shouts shook the sky. These people are really brave, but I like it. Dr. Zhao pushed his glasses. Let's go, Onyar. Let these fools kill each other, so that we can collect enough energy to leave this timeline. Elena only had Yige in her eyes. She worried about Yige more than her own life. Elena didn't pay any attention to the soldiers who were charging over. If Yige died, what was the point of her being alive? What was the difference between the rest of her life and the creatures that were kept? Despite the loud shouts, Elena was still kneeling there, digging the sand. Yige, where are you? Chapter 160, Crisis Era, Twilight of the Gods, 1. Yige was gone. Elena frantically dug at the sand. Even after it was as tall as a person, she still didn't see Yige's figure. She clearly remembered that Yige was buried here. But where was the person now? Ah, Yige, you can't have anything happen to you. Elena shouted wildly, her voice drowning out the oncoming army. She was angry. You have to seek death, then I will fulfill you. Elena jumped up, holding the cork sword in her hand, the cold light dazzling. Before these soldiers could react, they fell to the ground. But Elena didn't stop. She had anger in her heart, so someone should be buried with her. The pharaoh was directly confused when he saw this. This combat power is too strong. A good man doesn't fight with a woman. Let's withdraw. A large number of mammoths turned their heads and fled to the north. The flying sand was everywhere again, and these soldiers no longer had the courage to fight. Dr. Zhao, who hadn't gone far, trembled all over. This group of trash. It seems that I have to take action myself. As he spoke, Dr. Zhao drove the Blue Jay towards Kunlun ruins. Elena chased these people away and didn't have the mind to pursue. She turned back and continued to throw sand there. Yige, you must not have an accident. Ah, you stepped on me. This voice was like heavenly music. Elena hurriedly jumped up, and only then did she realize that the sand at the place where she was just now began to loosen. Immediately afterwards, a figure appeared. Elena couldn't care so much and rushed over directly. Yige had just climbed out of the sand pile and was smashed into the sand pile by Elena again. Yige, are you all right? Cough, cough. I was fine just now, but now I have something. Elena's face turned red. Although the two had already done husband and wife things, but this action was really indecent. Moreover, Yige was alluding to something, and Elena instantly understood Yige's meaning. Ah, you're annoying. It was just that Elena didn't grasp the strength, and Yige was buried in the sand again. When Yige woke up again, his head was still a little sore, but the corpses on the sand attracted his attention. Did you do it? Elena nodded. What Yige actually wanted to say was that he recognized these clothes. and they were exactly who he was looking for. Did you leave anyone alive? Elena nodded, and then shook her head. You wait. I'll go grab a few alive for you. Before Yige could react, Elena ran towards the distance. At the end of the sky, there was only a star left. Back in the misty forest, Yige didn't tell the whole contents of the parchment scroll. His only way now was to find the leader of the great Egyptian tribe, because Li Xinyuan had once told him that only the leader of the great Egyptian tribe would understand these words, which was why Yige came here. After a while, Elena came back. Yige, is this who you want? Are you the pharaoh of this great Egyptian tribe? As soon as Yige finished speaking, the man stood up directly and twisted his neck. Humph, you killed the Divine One. Just wait for the Divine One to take revenge. Come on, give me a happy ending. I can't tell, you're quite a hero. Are you really not afraid of death? Of course, when the head falls to the ground and leaves a bowl-sized scar, I'm still a hero in my next life. Then what's flowing in your crotch? At this time, the captured pharaoh realized that there was a wet spot under his legs, but he really didn't wet his pants. Where did this water come from? But this was no longer important, because he saw contempt in Yige's eyes. No, I was not scared to pee. You must believe me. I just... As he spoke, he followed his pants and touched down. At this time, his pants were also wet. Any explanation from him was pale and powerless. He wished he could find a crack in the ground to get into. He sniffed it, and a taste of distiller's grains came to his nose. He finally knew what this was. Don't believe me, look. Elena saw this man put his finger in his mouth, and the fingertip was also stained with urine, and she immediately felt disgusted. How can you be so perverted? This is really not urine. This is a wine pot. I was not scared to pee. You misunderstood me. He took out the wine pot from his arms, and there was a big hole on it. Poochie, you are so interesting. Have you figured out the situation? You are going to die now. Are these still important? Of course, dying in fear and dying heroically are two different things. Enough. Yige was also convinced by these two treasures, so he interrupted their conversation. I can spare you. No, you must kill me. If you don't kill me, those shadow of the divine people will also kill me, because you killed their people in my tribe. These words aroused Yige's interest. You know shadow of the divine? Of course, otherwise how could this divine palace be built on this vast land? You just called them people, not divine ones? You are too interesting. It's obvious that you killed them. And you also saw them shed the same blood as us. Why can't they be people? Oh no, the one who was executed at the divine palace shouldn't be our human race. You should know where he came from, right? You are very smart. On behalf of the Godslayer, I welcome you to join. Godslayer? Is this your organization? Yige nodded. Where was the Godslayer? This was just an organization he made up. Because he knew that the pharaoh in front of him was a wonderful person, he wanted to fool him, so that it would be easy to inquire about the parchment roll. Are you really Godslayer? What? You don't believe me? Or do you not believe this organization? I finally found you. There is a legend circulating in our tribe that a youth from the east formed the Godslayer. He will lead us to kill into the divine mountain and obtain unparalleled brilliant achievements, and our descendants will no longer be oppressed by the divine ones. This person knelt on the ground. I, Silu 9, am willing to lead the tribe to join the Godslayer. Good, get up quickly. Yige was very excited. What was going on? He casually made it up, and it was connected to the mythical story circulating in other people's tribe. This was really like a rapeseed falling into the eye of a needle. It was so ingenious. Are you familiar with Dr. Zhao? He taught us how to grow rice, and I helped him establish prestige, that's all. But this person is too cunning, and in the end I was also labeled with Shadow of the Divine. By the way, he also helped me get a set of divine rights. Speaking of it, I'm depressed. My position was passed down to me by my father. What does it have to do with the divine ones? Since you have joined us, I have a small favor to ask you to help. Yige took out the parchment roll. Silu Ix's eyes lit up directly, and he stared at Yige incredulously. Please forgive my rudeness just now. Get up and say it. What's wrong again? Yige hurriedly helped Silu 9 up. He felt that this person was a man. So why did he kneel at every turn? Chapter 161. The Crisis Era. Twilight of the Gods, 2. I lied to you. Yige looked blank. Sella 9 continued, that legend I just told you was a fabrication. I originally intended to trick you into the tribe to capture you and hand you over to Dr. Zhao. However, I think you can probably see through that now. Then what are you doing now? Yige was utterly perplexed. Could you let me take a look at that parchment? It has a scent that's deeply familiar to me, a scent etched into our DNA, a kind of innate connection. Of course. Yige handed the sheepskin scroll to Sella 9. Sella 9 inhaled deeply, his gaze fixed on the scroll in Yige's hand. His eyes revealed an indescribable reverence and excitement. He reached out slowly, gently touching the ancient script, as if he could feel the vicissitudes of history and a mystical power. You do recognize these characters. Yige wasn't worried that Sella 9 would secretly swallow the scroll. He could sense the sincerity in Sella IX's eyes. This is the way to leave this world? Sella IX's voice trembled slightly. We need to restore all the temples in West Continent and absorb the energy of the sun to open a gateway to another world. And this parchment is what the gods of Kunlun ruins left behind. Yige listened to the information Sella 9 extracted from the parchment, a feeling of profound shock washing over him. Your ancestors once followed Kunlun ruins? Yes. Sella 9 knelt on the ground and stated that his tribe still possessed statues from the Kunlun ruins era, inviting Yige and the others to visit the tribe to verify his claims. Just moments ago, Sella 9 had wanted to kill Yige, and now he was inviting him back to the tribe. Elena found the situation suspicious. Yige, this feels like a trap? No, I trust Sella 9, because he can genuinely read the content on the parchment. Unbeknownst to Elena, Yixingchen had revealed fragments of the parchment's content during their time in the Misty Forest. Now, listening to Sella 9 decipher the complete text, Yige finally understood the whole story. It was that someone deliberately orchestrated his arrival in this time, and this matter was related to Yixingchen, but not orchestrated by him. In the Misty Forest, Yixingchen had clearly wanted Yige to participate directly in the interstellar war. So, who was it that brought him here? An idea formed in Yige's mind, but he wasn't certain, as it could be related to his maternal family. I'll go back to the tribe with you. Hearing this, Sella 9 offered his mammoth. Yige and Elena sat atop the towering mammoth, followed by the descendants of the westward expedition and the tribal warriors, a grand procession heading towards the tribe. Upon arriving at the tribe, Sella 9 hosted a grand welcome feast. They ate, drank, and danced around a bonfire. Please come with me. Taking advantage of a moment when others were distracted, Sella 9 invited Yige and Elena to the back of the tribe, to a mountain. There was a cave, illuminated not by the fire outside, but by something akin to modern lighting. Two warriors stood guard on either side of the cave entrance, not holding swords or spears, but rather weapons resembling laser guns. Yige took everything in, shocked, but he swallowed his questions. He knew Sella 9 would tell him in time. This is the most important secret of our Sella tribe. No one knows of this place except for us, the Sella. Even my own children will only learn of these secrets upon my death, inheriting the glory of their ancestors. As he spoke, the three approached the cave entrance. This is Yige. He holds the parchment. We are free. Hearing this, the two guards' faces lit up with joy, followed by suspicion. Chief, may we verify this? You know the importance of this matter. What? Do you no longer heed my words? Please forgive us, Chief. It is the law of our ancestors. These people didn't seem to be acting. Yige produced the parchment, and the two men's expressions mirrored Sella IX's joy. These are truly the divine characters. Haha. We can finally leave this forsaken place. The two men embraced and began to weep. Seeing the two grown men acting this way, Elena felt disgusted and hid behind Yige, unable to watch the cringeworthy display. Sella 9 slapped his forehead. Don't embarrass yourselves here. Saying that, he led the way into the cave. As soon as Yige entered the cave, he was stunned by the scene before him. The light he had seen at the entrance was indeed from electric lights. Yige was so shocked because in his mind, electricity was a thing that appeared tens of thousands of years later. Who would have thought that he could see electricity in a cave of unknown tens of thousands of years ago, which was like seeing a Panamera unearthed in Sanxingdui, This shock was no less than this. On the walls of the cave were inscriptions, and Yige immediately knew that these texts were identical to those on the parchment. He didn't recognize any of them. He could only turn his gaze to Cella 9. These are some of our tribe's history, personally narrated by each chief. It can be seen as the history of our tribe, and the things recorded on it are all major events. Cella 9 led Yige to the deepest part of the cave. This is the scene where we first met the gods of Kunlun ruins. At that time, our tribe generally had a short lifespan, and few men lived past the age of 30. Later, we encountered a divine man who traveled here, and they helped our ancestors, and the lifespan of the men in the tribe was extended. As for what method, the ancestors did not say. Yige nodded and followed Cella 9, listening to him tell the story. Later, these gods told us that in fact they were also humans and not gods, and all this was called technology. Did you not learn these technologies? Cella 9 shook his head. Probably not. Otherwise you wouldn't see us like this. Do you want to learn? I don't want to. This time it was Yige's turn to be surprised. Cella 9 frankly said, the ancestors have already made a choice. Yige did not insist any longer, and he came to the depths of the cave again. He had noticed something unusual here when he came in. At the end of the cave was a mirror, which made people look tall and slender. It should be a funhouse mirror. There is no way out here, and this thing is too scary. It can absorb souls. Absorb souls? What does that mean? You must never look at this mirror, otherwise your soul will be put inside. This has been passed down from our tribe, so for so long we have always regarded this cave as a forbidden area. Yige looked at Cella 9 and didn't seem to be lying, but he felt funny in his heart. If you say that this world is full of the atmosphere of modern civilization, they are so ignorant. Just like the mirror in front of them, it is regarded as a soul-absorbing weapon by the other party. However, thinking about the social structure of the entire West continent, these things can be figured out. Do you want to wait for me outside? Hearing this, Cella 9 was granted amnesty and ran out in a puff of smoke. Seeing this, Elena laughed so hard that she couldn't straighten up. This Cella 9 is really interesting. Well, compared to Cella 9, I think this cave is more interesting. Yige stood in front of the mirror and observed it carefully. Here, there is actually wind? Chapter 162. The Crisis Era. Twilight of the Gods, 3. Wind. Elena reached her hand to the side of the mirror and indeed felt a gust of wind blowing the hair on her hand. With her keen perception, Elena found the switch behind the mirror. With a light touch, the whole mirror began to shake and finally fell to the ground. Where the mirror had been hanging, there was a cave, and the wind was blowing from there. Yige and Elena exchanged a glance and walked into the cave. Someone actually lived here. Yige was very surprised, because there were induction lamps on his head, and as long as living things passed by, these lamps would light up. With the help of the lights, Yige saw the layout of the entire cave. There were 2 compartments in it. The outer compartment was more like a hospital operating table, and the inner compartment was a lounge. In the middle of the 2 rooms was a row of bookshelves, and the books on them were now covered with dust. Yige picked up a book and read it. It was a diary, and the signature of the diary was Lin Jing. What? Lin Jing? How could it be such a coincidence? Yige trembled all over. He knew what Lin Jing represented. Opening the book, Yige became obsessed with reading this diary. Year 2356 of the Taishu calendar, March 8th. I met a woman who had severe gynecological inflammation. After inquiring, I determined that the problem was with her man. So I asked the man to come here, and sure enough, as I expected, he had phimosis. Year 2358 of the Taishu calendar, September 15th. The man came to me again and told me that his tribesmen were also facing such problems. I don't want to do these good deeds, so I passed on the technique of circumcision to that man. Later, they served me as a god, but I was too lazy to pay attention to them. Year 2361 of the Taishu calendar, July 3rd. I came to this world again, and I am pregnant. This is my first baby with him. What should I call him? Let's call him Gu. I hope he will be liked like a song. Year 2362 of the Taishu calendar, April 4th. I went into labor prematurely, and Gear was born. April 5th, I had to send him to his world, but fortunately I had a daughter in advance, so let her accompany him to grow up. April 6th, I am not happy today. That bastard Yi Xingqian actually gave our son to Su Ying. who is my good friend and rival in love. Am I at ease to give gear to him? April 8th. Today is the last day I am with gear, because there was a rebellion on this continent. We were attacked by a high-level civilization, and Kunlun Ruins is calling me. April 9th. I return to West Continent. Yige should take care of my child, right? May 10th. I have persisted for more than a month. Maybe Kunlun Ruins will also be destroyed. I am so glad that I sent our child to his world. He will definitely take good care of gear. May 20th. I can't do it anymore. May 21st. Why is he here? It turns out that the hero who stepped on auspicious clouds in that world really exists. But he is here. Who will take care of our child? Do you really want Suing to take care of him? Will she take good care of him? July 1st. I woke up from a coma. Yige is still by my side. I know he has always been there, but we can't appear at the same time. I woke up from the dream. It turns out that we were husband and wife in our previous life. No, every life above is husband and wife. This is so romantic. Why am I crying in vain? I left a note for Yige, and I left. September 1st. I couldn't help it. Yige may have replied to me. I hurried to the table. The note was still there, but there was a horizontal line folded on the paper. I knew this was Yige telling me that he was fine. Who would worry about whether you are doing well or not? I only worry about whether my gear is doing well. Sure enough, he also didn't know whether gear was doing well or not. When gear was 5 years old, he came to my world because he knew that I was in danger. September 30th. We finally repaired the teleporter. Yige convinced the patriarch they are going to another time and space, so I will never see my gear again. October 2nd. The last group of tribesmen left, and I was the only one left in the entire Kunlun Ruins. November. I came here again. I told them that I am not a god, but a person like them. These people actually believed it, and I knew they only believed it in their mouths. I believe my child will come here, so I hid the treasures of the entire Kunlun Ruins, and the key is here. No one can find them except my gear. December. Yige came again, and he took me away. The diary was not finished. The stories behind were all blank pages, and it could be seen that Lin Jing left in a hurry. Yige closed the diary. Yige, are you crying? I just miss my mother. Yige responded softly and casually flipped through the bookshelf, and an ancient bronze key fell from the bookshelf. Elena had sharper eyes and hurriedly picked up the key from the ground and put it in Yige's hand. There is no secret here. Let's go out. Yige now has a clear understanding of the entire story. This is his mother's maternal tribe, and this starry sky is the only way to reach the interstellar battlefield. No one is dominating him here, and the best plan for him to leave this world is like Yige, to reach the interstellar battlefield through the temples to absorb the cosmic energy in the solar system. Other methods are not impossible, but the consequences are too serious. At this moment, in the hall of the city of Atlantis, Dr. Zhao sat on a chair and talked about his plan. Don't you want to know where the people of Kunlun Ruins have gone? Now I can tell you that they are not in this time and space. They have gone to a more distant starry sky. Where exactly is that starry sky? In the future or the past? Anyway, not now. This was a nonsense sentence, and these bald heads looked at each other with serious expressions, and it was obvious that these people's patience had reached its limit. Dr. Zhao, this time you let the envoy of Shadow God die in the wilderness. He deserves to die. Now you still want to play tricks on us. Are you tired of living? Pa. Bald head number 9 slapped the table and put his hands on the table. His eyes almost burst into flames. Before Dr. Zhao could speak, Wonder jumped over and gave bald head number 9 a claw, and then leisurely returned to Dr. Zhao, squatted in his arms, and licked his paws. You are looking for death. Bald head number 9 was completely angry and chased after Dr. Zhao. Damn it, I want to kill that cat. But Dr. Zhao didn't care. He reached out and pointed casually, and bald head number 9 fell to the ground. What magic is this? Magic? Haha, don't forget that I am also the commander of Shadow God. He committed the following, and this is the punishment he deserved. Dr. Zhao was very satisfied with this wave of pretending, and he slowly pulled away the wire under the table. How could he know any magic? He just knew how to play a little clever trick. Seeing number 9 suffer, the other bald heads did not dare to act rashly. Dr. Zhao, where exactly is that time and space? Said, I don't know. But that time and space should be highly developed to the point that it can prevent the invasion of interstellar civilizations. Are you tempted? And I can take you to that starry sky. With your intelligence and talents, you can definitely increase the dimension of the existing civilization. It would be a lie to say that they were not tempted. In the first place, they tried their best to occupy Kunlun ruins in order to achieve the leap of civilization. Unfortunately, Kunlun ruins did not leave them anything. Then how should we go? Hearing this, Dr. Zhao knew that these people were beginning to be tempted. Instead, he was not in a hurry, but made classic movements, and the lenses of his glasses flashed with a burst of light. Dr. Zhao took out a roll of parchment from his arms and threw it on the table. This is my plan, and I named it energy conservation. Energy conservation? This did bring interest to these bald heads, and they flipped through the parchment, and after reading it, each of them had faces full of excitement. Ha ha ha, good. This plan is good. They had long been dissatisfied with these barbarians, but they were restricted by morality and rules and could not launch a war against them. Now, for the sake of the entire tribal civilization, those old stubborns will definitely agree to this plan. These bald heads excitedly left the hall with the roll of parchment, and soon the Atlantis Congress passed the plan, and they also gave the plan a bright name, Twilight of the Gods. Thus, an unprecedented war began on the West Continent. The 3,000 kingdoms controlled by Atlantis began to march towards the Nile River, and their armies swept across like a torrent, and wherever they went, they were defeated by the wind. This asymmetric civilization war took full advantage in the early stages of the war. Sela-9 finally realized the dimensional reduction strike of advanced civilization on tribal civilization, and this strike was the helplessness of bows and arrows versus snipers. The tribesmen in their tribe and the descendants of the westward expedition were forced to the mainland corridor. The so-called mainland corridor is a piece of land only a few tens of meters wide, surrounded by seawater, like a cross-sea bridge across the sea. Yige and Sela-9 rode mammoths, followed by 3,000 mammoth warriors, and behind them were the old, weak, sick and disabled in the tribe, and some women and children who were slowly moving towards the mainland corridor. We can't retreat any further. Behind us are our parents, wives, and children. If we retreat, what will they do? Tell me loudly, my tribal warriors. Fight to the death. Yige and the mammoth warriors behind him shouted loudly. Their eyes were burning with raging flames, holding weapons tightly in their hands, waiting for the signal to attack. The air was filled with a tense and heavy atmosphere, as if foreshadowing the life and death fight that was about to come. Warriors, today is the day we fight for our homeland. We cannot let the enemy trample our land. We cannot let them tarnish our glory. Sela-9 shouted loudly. His voice was as shocking as thunder. We must use our courage and wisdom to completely defeat the enemy. Let them know that the warriors of our West Continent will never yield. These words were like fire, igniting the fighting spirit in the hearts of the mammoth warriors. Fight to the death. Fight to the death. Fight for family. Fight for honor. They let out earth-shattering shouts, as if they were going to collapse the entire corridor. Then, they rushed towards the enemy in front of them like a torrent. Arrows and spears intertwined in the air to form a dense net, and the sounds of killing and war drums rose and fell one after another. Unfortunately, in the face of absolute strength, courage is only commendable. Faced with the powerful enemy, these warriors did not escape, but fell one after another in the pool of blood, and the swords in their hands still pointed to the direction the enemy was coming from. At this moment, the war has reached a critical moment, and Yige knows that he must come up with a way to reverse the situation. Otherwise, all that awaits them is death. The setting sun was like snow, the shadows were dragged very long, and the sea water was dyed red. At this time, the crowd began to slowly surround them. Yige stood in front of the injured Sela-9, and in front of him was Elena. Ha ha ha, this is the end of offending the gods. Die. Chapter 163, Crisis Era, Twilight of the Gods, 4. The biting wind stung like a knife, and the fear of death hung like a shadow over everything. In that instant, Yige instinctively pulled Elena behind him. This time, I'll protect you. Just like you wanted to protect me once, Yige said, his voice resolute and gentle. A flicker of surprise and emotion crossed Elena's eyes. Yige, have you finally accepted me? Yige didn't say anything more. His actions spoke volumes. He gripped his quark sword tightly, ready to attack. Words couldn't express his determination and feelings at that moment. However, even as life hung in the balance, a complex mix of emotions surged within Yige. He realized that when faced with life and death, he always chose Elena. It was as if Mu Fei's place in his heart had diminished. This shift confused him, but he had no time to dwell on it. Battle was imminent. The cold glint of steel almost blinded him. Sela 9 and the mammoth warriors groaned in pain on the ground. The enemy's taunts rose and fell, as if they couldn't wait to see them dead. Charge! One wave will crush them. To deal with these rookies, we had to mobilize all 3,000 kingdoms? What a pain. Enough talk. Kill them, and those broads tonight are all yours. The enemy's arrogance filled Yige with anger and humiliation. He knew that only a desperate fight could win a chance for survival for himself and those around him. He tightened his grip on his sword, ready to face the coming slaughter. But at that critical moment, something unexpected happened. A commotion broke out in the rear of the 3,000 kingdoms. Those in the vanguard began to retreat in panic. Yige seized the chance to assess the situation and discovered that his old friends had arrived as reinforcements. "What do you want, Great Qin Kingdom?" the enemy cried in alarm. "Mr. Yige is our savior. Of course we're here to help him," the Great Qin Kingdom warriors answered fearlessly. The enemy's arrogance shattered instantly. They began to fall into chaos and fear. Yige felt a warmth in his heart. He wasn't alone. This battle wasn't his to fight alone anymore. With the help of his old friends, the armies of the 3,000 kingdoms faltered and retreated. Battle raged everywhere, leaving countless dead and wounded. Yige felt a surge of warmth in his heart at the sight of his old friends' support. Warriors from the Great Qin Kingdom, the Red Maple Kingdom, the Solar Tribe, the Shadow Tribe, the Wizard Clan, and other primitive tribes joined the fray, engaging the armies of the 3,000 kingdoms in fierce combat. On the battlefield, swords flashed and blood flowed like a river. Yige gripped his quark sword tightly, like a general in the apocalypse, commanding a vast army. The soldiers were like strings of code, fixing the bugs left behind in this world. Each swing of his sword took an enemy life. However, the enemy was numerous, surging forward like a relentless tide. The battle raged for hours, with both sides paying a terrible price. Besieged by the warriors of the primitive tribes, the armies of the 3,000 kingdoms crumbled. The battlefield was littered with corpses and wounded, the air filled with cries of pain. Yige led his warriors in a victorious pursuit, finally reaching the foot of the sacred mountain. But as they neared the mountain, the gods on the mountain finally intervened. They launched improved Bluebird fighters, the greatest fighter aircraft of humanity's later technological civilization. The warplanes screamed overhead, and a batch of incendiary bombs exploded above them, instantly engulfing the sky in flames. Most of the people Yige led were surrendered soldiers from the 3,000 kingdoms. The battlefield situation had changed, and they had surrendered. Yige hadn't chosen to kill them, but had instead let them join the rebel army. Yige simply didn't want to create more bloodshed. But now, when these surrendered soldiers saw the incendiary bombs exploding, they knelt on the ground and prayed. "Gods, forgive our sins." The sound spread like a plague, 1 to 10, 10 to 100, 100 to 1,000, 1,000 to 10,000. Except for Yige's old comrades, almost everyone knelt on the ground. These flames didn't care whether or not you were devout, indiscriminately falling upon these people. If they were ordinary people, they could have shaken off the flames. But these people were foolishly obtuse, mistaking it for a divine punishment. Faced with life and faith, they chose the latter. Yige was deeply shaken by the scene. Could he call them ignorant? In an instant, countless were killed or wounded. But Yige didn't want them to die yet. At Yige's command, the mammoths extended their long trunks, and a rain of water fell, saving these devout believers from being burned alive by the phosphorus bombs. But they still knelt piously, praying sincerely for the mistakes they thought they had made. Sadly, the noble gods on the sacred mountain didn't see these people as human beings, but as threads of energy. Wave after wave of attacks rained down, and these people ultimately died at the hands of the gods they trusted most, becoming insignificant bits of energy in the twilight of the gods' plan. Pitiable? Perhaps not. Hateful? Perhaps not either. Yige watched the scene, and in that moment, his state of mind elevated greatly. Perhaps compassion wasn't suited to this world. Without sufficient power, rashly interfering with others would bring consequences that were impossible to bear, just like these innocent people who had died tragically. But Sela 9 couldn't accept this outcome. Those people aren't gods at all. The gods have left this land, along with the temples. Today, we must avenge these wrongly dead holy souls. Brothers, follow me. Yige was about to stop Sela 9, but it was too late. They, too, became bits of energy for the twilight of the gods' plan. Yige looked up toward the sacred mountain. The gods were laughing wantonly. They waved their hands, and fighter planes came again and again. Before Yige could react, he and Elena were seized and dragged onto a warplane. The Atlanteans ruthlessly escorted Yige to the summit of the sacred mountain, where a grim and ancient purgatory tower stood. The tower seemed to reach the sky, every stone etched with the marks of time and the despair of countless prisoners. He was bound in heavy chains and pushed into the unfathomable darkness. Inside the purgatory tower, mournful cries echoed off the cold, hard stone walls, sending chills down the spine. Yige was tormented mercilessly, and across from him was Elena. Yige saw concern in Elena's eyes. This will all pass. No, I'm going to kill them. How dare they torture you like this? Before the words had faded, a familiar voice came again. Really? Who are you going to kill? Yige looked toward the dark entrance. The glint of glasses flashed, and Dr. Zhao appeared in Yige's sight, pushing up his glasses. Yige, I didn't expect we'd meet like this. You know I don't want you to die, but I have no choice. You must dedicate yourself to the twilight of the gods' plan. Of course, this is your glory. A fake expression plastered Dr. Zhao's face. A cold blade came toward Yige. Stop. Stop it. Two voices cried out suddenly, one filled with unwillingness and heartache, and the other as cold as iron. One voice belonged to Elena, and the other was a stranger's. Yige was confused. He didn't recognize the woman in front of him at all. Your Highness, why won't you let me kill him? This is the decision of the Shadow Gods. Shadow God? That name might deceive those ants, but don't forget, this is Atlantis City. I order you to release him now. Release him? That won't do. Don't tell me you're just a princess. Even if you inherit the throne one day, you can't release him. Today, I'll give you face and spare his life. Saying that, Dr. Zhao left the purgatory tower. Only now did Yige see the appearance of the newcomer clearly, and a sense of apprehension washed over him. He didn't recognize her at all. Her face was as delicate as a sculpture, her skin as white as jade, as if polished by the years, emitting a faint luster. Her eyes were as deep as the sea, her nose high and straight, and her lips were red and full. Every detail revealed her nobility and elegance. Why did you save me? Because you are so handsome. We'll meet again. By then, you'll be mine. Ha ha ha. Elena watched everything. As long as Yige lived, she didn't care how many women Yige had. Even if all the women in the universe set their sights on Yige, she would proudly say, see, the woman I chose is that outstanding. Unbeknownst to Yige, at that moment, the entire West continent had descended into bloodshed and chaos. With the 3,000 kingdoms utterly destroyed, the Shadow Gods could only deploy their most elite forces, humanoid robots. These things had no emotions. They wielded sharp weapons and slaughtered the living beings of West Continent with abandon. Civilians? Warriors? All fell helplessly in this catastrophe. Blood dyed the earth red, and cries of anguish shook the heavens. What else could this be called but hell? The survivors lost all courage. They prostrated themselves on the ground, praying to the gods to help them through this tribulation. But was it of any use? The descendants of the Solar Tribe fought to the end, leaving only Blackfeather and Yige. They smiled bitterly, drew their swords, and slashed at the machines. Boom. The two were kicked away, never to rise again. Just as it seemed like the end, shouts in the distance brought renewed hope. The 22 reconnaissance teams that Yi Xingqian left behind, the heavenly stems and earthly branches, descended upon West Continent like divine soldiers. They wore uniform armor, carried divine weapons, and their faces were filled with determination and resolve. Their arrival instantly ignited the flame of hope in the hearts of the people of West Continent. At the same time, Li Xinyuan led an Eastern Continent reinforcement force of 10 million to the battlefield. They surged forward like a torrent, engaging the Atlantean robot army in fierce combat. On the battlefield, the flash of swords and the shouts of battle shook the heavens and the earth. Fall. Chop. Boom. Reduced to ashes. Chapter 164. Crisis Era. Twilight of the Gods, 5. Atlantis City was decorated with lanterns and streamers, filled with joyful cheer. Today was the princess's wedding day, and the entire city was immersed in celebration. The princess wore an ornate wedding dress, and her face beamed with happiness. And her groom was none other than Yige, imprisoned in the Purgatory Tower. For the Atlanteans, this wedding wasn't just a celebration, but a conspiracy. Of course, that's something only a few knew. They wanted to use the wedding to force Yige to hand over the treasures of his maternal clan. Because since the founding of Atlantis, no traces of ancient civilization had been found. It seemed highly abnormal, and gene sequencing had confirmed that Yige had a connection to those lost civilizations. The discovery caused an uproar among the shadow gods. They quickly convened a meeting. Dr. Zhao was excluded, and the wedding was planned afterwards. Initially, Dr. Zhao vehemently opposed it. But this time, the shadow gods paid little attention to Dr. Zhao's feelings. You're crossing the river and tearing down the bridge. Even if you gather enough energy, you won't be able to reach that space-time without my guidance. Dr. Zhao, don't be so presumptuous. What are you really planning? Do we really need to put it all on the table? That won't be good for anyone. Now wasn't the time to tear off the mask, so Dr. Zhao could only endure. The wedding went on as planned. However, what the shadow gods didn't know was that the situation outside Kunlun ruins had completely reversed. The 22 reconnaissance teams left by Yi Xingxian were not to be trifled with. The primitive people of West Continent didn't know how to use the laws of the universe, but they did. Under their command, the shadow gods' humanoid killing machines were utterly destroyed, lacking all combat effectiveness. Moreover, with a series of code inputs, these humanoid robots were controlled by the reconnaissance teams. Soon, they surrounded the sacred mountain. Along the way, there were no living beings and no resistance. Inside the city, the wedding bells rang. The princess's face was devoid of emotion, like an ice-cold beauty. She linked arms with Yige and slowly walked toward the altar. Below, unsuspecting residents offered enthusiastic blessings. Elena sat at a table, devouring food with gusto. She had been too hungry for too many days. As for Yige's wedding, she wasn't jealous at all. She thought her Yige was the best, and wished every beauty in the universe would be his wife. That would be even better. Just as the wedding was about to reach its climax, a deafening roar suddenly shook the earth. Atlantis City seemed to tremble at that moment. The sacred mountain outside the city was tightly surrounded by the 22 reconnaissance teams. They used advanced technological means to quickly destroy the shadow gods' defense system and successfully control the absorbed killing machines. In that moment, they descended like divine soldiers, bringing earth-shattering changes to Atlantis City. Inside the city, the princess linked arms with Yige, her face still expressionless. Elena tossed aside the chicken leg in her hand and said, "Time to work," then disappeared from the crowd. No one knew where she went. Yige stared at the place where Elena had disappeared, knowing that nothing would happen to her. He trusts Elena more than Mu Fei. Now when Yige thinks of Mu Fei, Elena's heart would skip a beat, and her whole mood turns bad. The crowd below the altar stirred. It turned out that members of the shadow gods had discovered the abnormalities outside the city. They rushed toward the altar in panic, wanting to seize Yige as a hostage. However, their actions were detected by Elena in advance. "Stop. If you don't want the princess to die, step back." The head guard didn't care about the princess's life at all. In this city, the queen and princess were just symbols. For the future of the entire city, they could be sacrificed. The princess panicked, and the head guard tried to take advantage of the crowd to strike. Elena looked at the head guard and snorted coldly, kicking the oncoming man away. "Stop. My shadow gods haven't stooped so low as to survive by taking hostages. What's the difference between that and a dog? Yes, you've disappointed me too much." The princess raised the sword in her hand high. "Atlantis warriors, for the glory of our civilization, take up your weapons and defeat those people." Be as brave as our ancestors who fought for the glory of civilization. Hoorah! In an instant, all the panic stopped. They took out their weapons, donned their armor, and ran toward the outside of the city. Taking advantage of the chaos, Elena took Yige away. Let's go. It's time we settled the score with Dr. Zhao. Elena and Yige took advantage of the chaos and moved through the streets of Atlantis City. Their goal was clear: find Dr. Zhao and settle all their old and new scores. Although the city was now in a state of chaos, Elena used her intuition to guide Yige through the city and soon discovered Dr. Zhao's hiding place. They soon arrived in front of Dr. Zhao's residence. The small house, located in a corner of the city, seemed exceptionally quiet at the moment, as if isolated from the world. Elena stepped forward and knocked on the door, but there was no response from inside. She frowned, and a bad premonition welled up in her heart. Not good. He may have already run away, Elena said in a low voice. Yige nodded. He looked around and suddenly discovered a tiny camera in the corner of the wall. His heart stirred, and he stepped forward, forcefully destroying it. It seems our movements have been monitored by the shadow gods all along. Dr. Zhao must have received the news. Yige gritted his teeth. He wasn't willing to let Dr. Zhao escape like this. Just then, a burst of hurried footsteps came from a distance. Elena and Yige turned to look and saw a team of shadow god soldiers running towards them. Quick, let's go. Elena grabbed Yige's hand and turned to run down another alley. The two ran through the alleys, the pursuers getting closer. Yige felt anxious. He knew this couldn't go on, but they can only run with Elena right now. Suddenly, Yige's eyes lit up, and he saw a familiar figure. He pulled away from Elena and ran toward the figure. Mu Fei, you're alive? I missed you so much. You've mistaken me for someone else. No, you are my Mu Fei. I finally saw you again. Saying that, Yige rushed forward regardless. Just then, the familiar figure suddenly turned around. A ray of cold light flashed, and Yige felt a chill in his chest. He looked down, and blood had already stained his clothes. He looked in disbelief at the person in front of him, the person he had once loved deeply, but who was now looking at him coldly, with not a trace of warmth in her eyes. Why did you? Before Yige could finish speaking, a surge of pain swept over him, and his body collapsed powerlessly to the ground. Elena heard the commotion and rushed over. Seeing the scene before her, her eyes turned red instantly. Yige! She cried out, rushing forward to hold Yige. Then she raised her head in anger, looking at the figure that had already disappeared into the distance, her eyes filled with murderous intent. She didn't understand why Mu Fei would appear here, and even less why she would attack Yige so viciously. Her heart was filled with doubts and anger, but the most important thing now was to save Yige. Elena quickly took out a first aid kit from her body and treated Yige's wound. Fortunately, the wound wasn't deep, and Yige gradually regained consciousness. Yige, you're awake. Where is she? Mu Fei left. No, she isn't Mu Fei. She must be someone pretending to be her. Yige, stop lying to yourself. Saying that, Elena hugged Yige into her arms. At that moment, Yige cried. Yige wept loudly in Elena's arms, tears falling like broken pearls. His heart was filled with endless grief and incomprehension. Why would the person he had always loved suddenly attack him so viciously? He couldn't accept this reality, and even more, he couldn't believe from the bottom of his heart that the figure was Mu Fei. Elena held Yige tightly and patted Yige on the back gently, comforting him tenderly. Yige, don't be sad. We will definitely find out the truth. If that person is not Mu Fei, we will find her and the truth will come out. Under Elena's comfort, Yige's emotions gradually stabilized. He raised his head, looking at Elena firmly. You're right. We must find out the truth. I want that person who impersonated Mu Fei to pay the price. Just then, another burst of hurried footsteps came from a distance. Elena and Yige immediately stood up alertly, knowing that the people from the shadow gods had come after them. Quick, let's go. Elena grabbed Yige's hand and turned to run down another alley. They had to leave this place as soon as possible, find a safe place to hide, and then try to find out the truth. The two sped through the alleys, the pursuers getting closer and closer. But at that moment, a familiar figure suddenly blocked their way. Don't even think about escaping, the figure said coldly. Yige and Elena looked up and saw that the person was none other than Dr. Zhao, whom they had been searching for. You're actually here. Let's settle all our old and new scores together. Yige picked up the cork sword and stabbed it over as if he didn't care about his life. Dr. Zhao didn't know martial arts, and the two men grappled and wrestled together. Oeniar, you damn cat, aren't you coming to save me? Meow. With a scream, Wonner pounced on Yige's face, swinging her claws, but froze in midair. Elena placed a cold light directly on Oeniar's neck and hugged her. Are you looking for death? No, listen to me, Meow. Okay, it's time for it all to end. Saying that, Elena pressed on a certain spot on Oeniar's back. The cat turned into a ball again and was put into Elena's backpack. Wonner was not alone in here, because Zero never woke up after collapsing. Later, Number 1 found Elena and returned Zero to his true self. With this, Dr. Zhao freed himself. Ha ha ha, Yige. You think you can kill me? Pui, you are just a coward. A coward who will only hide behind women for the rest of your life. Really? That voice and figure stunned Yige. Under the moonlight, that face, that bloody Tsuehua dress, were so familiar, and the person was Mu Fei. Yige was motionless, muttering at the corners of his mouth. He wanted to question her, but he couldn't say the words. Elena stood in front of Yige with a dagger in her hand. Don't worry, I'm fine. Yige didn't know whether these words were to comfort Elena or to comfort himself. At that moment, Mu Fei's inhumanly cold eyes came directly over. Dr. Zhao, do you think I can kill you? Don't. Yige couldn't control himself at this moment. He chased after her, but was hit from behind. And in his dizzy eyes he only saw Elena's figure. And Mu Fei stabbed Dr. Zhao. Dr. Zhao took out a ball from his body and threw it to the ground, and the whole person was wrapped in heavy metal like a mecha. This is a quantum civilization's weapon armor? Are you sure you can kill me? Dr. Zhao raised his hand, holding a laser weapon. Now, is it time for you to run? Elena protected the unconscious Yige by her side, staring at the situation closely. Mu Fei did not retreat. She flashed left and right and slashed Dr. Zhao with a knife, but did not hurt Dr. Zhao at all. This is the power of science and technology. Ha ha ha, your little tricks can't kill me at all. Really? Mu Fei whistled. The nether helicopter flew again, and with just a big net, Dr. Zhao was subdued. Mu Fei jumped on the helicopter. At this time, there was a huge roar, and then the whole earth began to shake, and there were soldiers everywhere on the street, including the Atlantis city guards and reconnaissance teams. The surroundings were full of chaotic voices, like a doomsday of the earth. The sky suddenly became dark, with dark clouds, lightning, and thunder. On the sea, the waves were raging, roaring like angry beasts, rushing towards Atlantis City. The city residents panicked and ran everywhere, but no matter how hard they tried, they could not escape this coming disaster. The city walls were crumbling under the impact of the huge waves, and buildings collapsed one after another. The whole city seemed to be trembling and groaning. The air was filled with the smell of dust and sea salt, the smell of the end. Elena also began to flee with Yige on her back. Elena trudged through the secret passage with Yige on her back. Behind her were the wails of the city and the roar of destruction. She didn't dare to look back. She could only move forward desperately. With her keen senses, she avoided the collapsing rocks time and time again. Go there. There is a secret passage. The password is the pendant on my chest. Just now, when the nether helicopter left, Mu Fei shot a laser weapon, and if Elena had not been quick-witted, Yige would have been roasted now. But Yige was indeed unlucky today. He was hit by a boulder, and now his head was dizzy. With a jump, Elena finally stood on the high platform. She took the jade pendant from Yige's hand and directly opened the secret passage, not daring to delay for a moment, and entered it. In the depths of the secret passage, Elena finally found a relatively safe place. She put Yige on the ground and checked his injuries. Fortunately, he was just hit in the head and was not seriously injured. Elena breathed a sigh of relief. Yige gradually woke up at this moment, and they walked forward along the secret passage. Although there were huge waves outside, the secret passage was as stable as Mount Tai, as if they were in two different worlds. Pushing open the stone door, a hidden cave was revealed here. The cave was filled with some ancient objects and books, as well as a crystal ball emitting a faint light. Yige recognized at a glance that this crystal ball was the seed of civilization from the ancient Kunlun ruins. He carefully held it up, feeling the powerful energy and ancient wisdom contained in it. She knew that this might be their only hope of escaping from here. At the same time that Yige and others picked up the seeds of civilization, Atlantis City and even the entire West continent sank. The entire city collapsed completely in a huge roar and sank into the sea. At the same time, a powerful energy soared into the sky from the ruins of the city, soaring into the clouds. This energy contained thousands of years of civilization essence of Atlantis City and endless resentment and unwillingness. It stirred the energy of heaven and earth, forming a huge vortex, dyeing the entire sky blood red. Under the action of this energy, the air in the secret passage suddenly became distorted. Is this an AI body? Before Yige could react, he and Elena were absorbed into it. Chapter 165, Final Chapter 1. When Yige slowly opened his eyes, he found himself in a warm and welcoming lounge. The peaceful atmosphere was gently punctuated by Elena's serene sleeping face. She was slumped beside the bed, making soft purring sounds, as if engaged in an intimate conversation with her dreams. Yige carefully got up, gently lifting Elena and laying her on the soft bed. Despite his soft movements, she still stirred from her sleep. Elena groggily opened her bright eyes, looking at Yige with deep concern. Yige, you're finally awake. Lie down. You were badly injured. You need to rest, Elena said urgently, her voice filled with concern and worry. Yige nodded slightly, a confused expression on his face. He asked softly, I feel okay, just a little weak. Where are we? And how did I get hurt? Elena explained gently, this is the Divine Ark, a cosmic-class spaceship. We encountered an AI entity in West Continent. When we woke up, we were already in this vast starry sky. This place is called the Interstellar Battlefield, and their leader is your father, Yige. Yige's eyes widened as he repeated in disbelief, Yige, my father? A hint of surprise and confusion colored his voice. Does this mean we've finally arrived in this space-time? There was a hint of tension in Yige's voice, as if he were trying to digest this sudden news. Elena nodded gently, holding Yige tightly in her arms. She asked softly, Yige, have you thought about how you're going to face Yige? Her voice was full of concern and support. Yige was silent for a moment, then smiled bitterly. No, I don't know whether to respect him or hate him. Along this journey, I've witnessed too many changes in time. To be honest, I don't even know how to face him anymore. His voice was filled with helplessness and confusion. Having survived life and death situations together, their feelings for each other had deepened, and they snuggled close. However, deep down, Yige was filled with pain. He missed Mu Fei, and the longing washed over him like a tide, making his heart heavy. At that moment, the door slowly opened. Standing in the doorway was a tall, uniformed middle-aged man. He seemed unkempt, but his eyes were sharp as an eagle's. He glanced at Yige and Elena, then spoke slowly. I'm Reynold, the captain of this ship. You appeared suddenly on our ship, and I need to know your identities and origins. His voice was firm and strong, revealing a wariness and curiosity towards the unknown. A thought flashed through Yige's mind. He didn't want to reveal his true identity directly. He smiled and replied, We're a pair of travelers from a distant planet. This is my wife. We were forced to land here because of an accident. We mean no harm. We just hope to use your ship to reach our next destination. His voice was calm and confident, trying to convince Captain Reynold of their story. Captain Reynold frowned slightly, clearly not entirely believing Yige's words. But he didn't press the matter, just asking, Oh, is that so? Then where is your ship? Why didn't we detect any signs of it? His voice revealed his attention to detail and suspicion. Yige had anticipated this question. He replied calmly, Our ship was severely damaged during the landing, and it's no longer able to take off. But we have some valuable cargo that we can offer in exchange for helping us repair our ship. His voice revealed his sincerity and anticipation for a trade. Captain Reynold listened to Yige's reply. Although he still had doubts, he also thought the man spoke with humor and wit, and didn't seem like someone with malicious intent. He nodded, indicating his agreement to provide help. All right, I can offer you some help, but you'll need to stay on the ship for a while first. After we confirm your identities, we'll make a decision. His voice revealed his openness to cooperation and caution. Thank you, Captain. Where are we headed? Yige asked, with a hint of curiosity and anticipation in his voice. Cyber City, the main base of the Interstellar Front. It's one of the most important cities for our human civilization and absolutely cannot be lost. Therefore, I must verify your identities. I hope you don't mind. You can move freely within this cabin, but you may not step out of the cabin door. Otherwise, we will definitely shoot you down immediately, Captain Reynolds said seriously, his voice revealing his dedication to his mission and his adherence to the rules. Captain Reynolds left after saying these words. Yige and Elena exchanged smiles, and a sense of strange relief and anticipation welled up in their hearts. They had finally successfully avoided this hurdle. A book on the table caught Yige's attention. He curiously picked it up and flipped through it, discovering that it was a valuable work introducing the entire civilization galaxy. In the vast universe, human civilization had finally stepped into the legendary fourth-level civilization hall. It was an era filled with miracles and hope, where the prosperity of technology transformed human dreams into reality, and endless fantasies were forged into brilliant realities. In this great era, huge interstellar battleships became symbols of human civilization. They were like lighthouses in the Milky Way, leading humanity in exploring the unknown universe. The engine lights of the battleships crossed the dark void, opening up interstellar routes for humanity. These battleships were not only tools for humanity to explore the universe, but also the crystallization of human wisdom and courage, demonstrating humanity's endless creativity and adventurous spirit. In this space-time background, many limitations of civilization had been overcome by humanity. Breakthroughs in medicine had rendered once incurable diseases obsolete, extending the symphony of human life. Nuclear, fusion, and cosmic energy harvesting technology in the energy sector were widely used, bringing new vitality to the galaxy environment and laying a solid foundation for the sustainable development of human society. At the same time, human culture also blossomed with more splendid splendor in this era. Art forms such as music, painting, and literature were constantly innovating, interweaving with various scientific and philosophical thoughts of the universe to create brilliant paintings. Humanity's exploration of the universe and the pursuit of inner harmony and beauty were reflected in these cultural treasures, injecting endless vitality and color into humanity's spiritual world. This era was full of hope and dreams. Human civilization blossomed with endless brilliance under the guidance of technology, demonstrating humanity's creativity and wisdom. Yige held the book in his hands, his heart surging. He witnessed the glory and hope of human civilization, and also felt the challenges and crises it faced. Elena asked softly, Yige, what are you thinking about? Yige raised his head, his eyes deep. I was thinking, no matter how high our level of civilization is, we're not without threats. For example, the civilization in this starry sky has now reached the peak of carbon-based life, but they still have their own troubles. What kind of troubles? I think it's pretty good now. I'm happiest as long as Yige is by my side. Saying that, Elena leaned her head on Yige's shoulder. Today was Elena's happiest day, because she had finally heard the words, "This is my wife," from Yige's mouth. Yige, I support you no matter what you do. Yige nodded, but his heart was filled with conflict. He saw from the book the pressure that Yige was facing. A rush of conflicting emotions welled up, and he didn't know how to handle his relationship with his father. Just then, a piercing alarm sounded inside the Divine Arkansas. Reynolds' voice echoed throughout the ship. Enter Strategic Alert Level 1. Those silicon-based trash are attacking us. Chapter 166, Final Chapter, 2. As the piercing alarm sounded, the Divine Ark battleship was instantly placed on Strategic Alert Level 1. Captain Reynolds' decisive and firm voice reverberated throughout the ship, making everyone feel the impending crisis. Yige and Elena practically jumped to their feet simultaneously. They gazed out the cabin's windows into the pitch-black expanse of space. You two, get back to your seats, Captain Reynolds' voice dropped, his tone suddenly heavy. They aren't what you think they are. They're. However, his words cut off abruptly, as if he didn't want to explain too much. A thought flashed through Yige's mind. He knew that he might have been exposed. For someone who had grown up in this starry sky, the existence of silicon-based life forms wasn't a secret. But how would he explain ONER and Zero? With no other choice, Yige could only sit back down as Captain Reynolds requested. Put on your helmets. That way, you can observe the silicon-based life forms, Captain Reynolds said seriously and tensely. Remember, do not communicate with them, or the consequences will be unimaginable. Without hesitating for a moment, Yige quickly put on the helmet. The scene before his eyes amazed him. It was as if he had returned to the cage space in the newly built Earthworld. Captain Reynolds, I have a question. There was a hint of tension in Yige's voice. Go ahead. Can the creatures here really kill us? Yes, Captain Reynolds' voice dropped. Although this place is a virtual space to us, it's the real world to the silicon-based life forms. Therefore, you must remain vigilant at all times and protect yourselves. If you die here, you'll never be able to return, he said, handing Yige something. Take this. Yige took it and saw that it was a quantum shield. This is a quantum shield developed by Chairman Yige, Reynolds explained. Although it's theoretically a bit old, it can save your life in a pinch. Quantum shield? Yige said in disbelief. This is considered old? Good heavens, what kind of space-time is this? Yige felt a headache coming on. At that moment, Elena also entered the space, protecting Yige by his side. Hey, you two, hurry and board the mecha. Reynolds' voice suddenly sounded. Yige and Elena turned their heads and saw that Reynolds had transformed into a handsome and dashing youth. Seeing that they hadn't reacted, Reynolds realized that he had probably changed his appearance, so he hastily removed the disguise and turned back into the scruffy middle-aged man. Reynolds, can you transform? Yige asked in surprise. Nah, this is transformable chewing gum, Reynolds explained. Created by Chairman Yige. This thing can change your appearance at will. It can fool not only us carbon-based creatures, but also those silicon-based life forms. Saying that, he handed Yige and Elena each a piece of transformable chewing gum. Yige, is this thing really that magical? Elena asked curiously. Perhaps it's magical in this particular space-time? Yige guessed, but I don't think it'll be of much use outside of here. Otherwise, Reynolds wouldn't have come to see us in such a sloppy state. Soon, Yige and Elena changed their appearances. They followed behind Reynolds and boarded a mecha. Before long, they arrived on the battlefield. The ship's cannons fired furiously, laser cannons, particle cannons, and various other weapons weaving a sea of fire in an attempt to repel the attacking silicon-based creatures. However, these creatures didn't seem to fear humanity's weapons. They surged forward like a tide, fearlessly charging toward the ship. In the intense battle, the Divine Arc battleship performed fiercely, quickly repelling the first attack of the silicon-based life forms. However, just as Yige and the others wanted to rest, another wave of silicon-based life forms launched a new round of attacks. How can these guys be as disgusting as cockroaches? Yige couldn't help but curse. How can they not be killed off? That's the most important skill of silicon-based life, Reynolds explained. They have the skill of infinite replication. This time, we're in for big trouble. Saying that, he habitually lit an e-cigarette. Phew. Reynolds exhaled a cloud of smoke. You two are really miserable. You eloped from a small place, and you're going to die here before you even reach Cyber City. But at least you're not alone on this road. Elena kicked Reynolds hard, causing him to cry out in pain. How can you be so cruel to kick me? Pooey, who told you to speak so badly? Elena scolded angrily. Yige won't die, and he can't die. If you curse him to death again, I'll kill you first. In fact, Elena had been acting from the beginning. How could her personality be so gentle? That was just to give Reynolds face, since he had saved them. But now, Elena didn't have a good impression of Reynolds. Pooey, 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 what a bad luck. Reynolds spat out the e-cigarette in his mouth and frowned. Soon, the silicon-based life forms gathered again. This time, the offensive was even more rapid than the last. The Divine Arc battleship had to pay more power to deal with this attack. As time passed, the silicon-based creature's offensive became more and more fierce. They seemed to possess an endless stream of fighting power, constantly surging toward the battleship from all directions. Soon, Street fighting broke out. The 10th charge made the Divine Ark battleship precarious. Faced with this scene, Captain Reynolds decisively ordered to activate the ship's self-destruction program to prevent silicon-based creatures from infiltrating the ship and causing greater damage. However, at this critical moment, Yige stepped forward. "Captain, let the soldiers retreat. I have a way to defeat these silicon-based legions." A look of disbelief appeared on Reynolds' face. "You? What way do you have?" Yige said firmly, "I am an architect." Reynolds questioned, "What nonsense are you talking about? You don't even understand strategic helmets. How can you understand architecture? If that were the case, why would you elope with your wife?" Hearing the word elope, Yige realized that Reynolds had misunderstood. He quickly explained, If you don't want to watch our human warriors sacrifice in vain, I hope you can put aside your prejudice." Reynolds looked at the tragic scene on the battlefield and gritted his teeth. "I'll give you 5 minutes, otherwise I will activate the auto-destruct system." Yige didn't say much more and quickly rushed to the control room. "I need the highest authority on this ship." Reynolds didn't hesitate. "After you complete fingerprint pairing, you'll have it. Attention all battleships, Reynolds' command is revoked. Yige has obtained the highest authority on the Divine Arkansas." This message shocked everyone. In the distance, the captains of several battleships locked their sights on the Divine Ark, which gave the silicon-based Legion another opportunity to launch a general attack. The entire battlefield situation instantly turned in favor of the silicon-based Legion. Through the Divine Ark, Yige also realized these problems. He immediately asked Reynolds, "You need to explain?" Reynolds took a deep breath and used the communication system to convey information to all the battleships. "Everyone, this is Reynolds. Because the Divine Ark needs to upgrade its architecture, I have transferred control to Yige. Please rest assured, the Divine Ark is unharmed. Hold your positions and fight for humanity." After saying that, Reynolds looked at Yige. He and Elena guarded the control cabin door. At this time, the soldiers on the Divine Ark had retreated back into the cabin according to Reynolds' order. He didn't want these brave warriors to sacrifice needlessly. "The aura is over there." The silicon-based Legion rushed over here, and in an instant, Yige and others were surrounded by the silicon-based Legion. "How is it going, Yige?" Chapter 167, Final Chapter 3. The situation was precarious. "Yige, what's the status?" Yige remained silent. Another minute passed, and he still hadn't responded. "Time is running out." Reynolds resolutely walked to the control room. The Yige in front of him was concentrating on writing code. The battleship's command system was fully connected, but the entire ship was paralyzed. This scene enraged Reynolds. "What are you doing? You actually disabled all the defensive systems? Good heavens, how could I trust you, you traitor?" Reynolds went berserk. If this continued, the Divine Ark would turn into a pile of scrap metal, unable to fight back. And the culprit behind it all was Yige. He had believed Yige's lies. The weapon in his hand, a 0.65 centimeters caliber machine bundle gun, radiated a deadly aura. As long as Reynolds moved his finger slightly, Yige's life would be lost. However, at the critical moment, he hesitated. "Who exactly are you? Why do you feel so familiar?" Yige still didn't respond. He was performing a series of complex operations, after which the battleship's defensive systems were fully activated. The Divine Ark released powerful energy beams, causing severe interference to the silicon-based Legion, forcing them to stop their attack. Then, Yige typed in another string of characters. Miraculously, the silicon-based Legion actually surrendered to the Divine Ark. "Yige, did you succeed?" Yige showed Elena a sign of victory, then sat weakly on the ground. Sweat soaked through his clothes, and the heat above his head was as if the CPU was overheating. "Captain Reynolds, I am now returning command to you." "No, wait a minute. Yige, can you do us a favor? Please tell me." During this battle, in addition to our Divine Ark, 4 other battleships were caught up. Can you help them clear out those silicon-based legions? "Yes, I can." "Thank you." Under Reynolds' coordination, Yige contacted the other 4 battleships. "What? You actually cleared the silicon-based Legion? How is that possible?" "Reynolds, don't lie to me. Those silicon-based legions can't be wiped out. Unless we withstand their preset number of attacks, they can't be eliminated." Reynolds was also furious on the side. You yourselves are incompetent, and you imagine everyone else to be as stupid as you? I don't want those warriors to sacrifice in vain. If you are still so stubborn, be careful I report your actions today to the military court and let the entire galaxy punish you. The image of the silicon-based legion looking docile, like ordinary household robot servants, appeared on the screen, and this scene completely stung the officers of the other 4 battleships. Reynold, are you saying that Mr. Yige can really eliminate this crisis? The fact is right before your eyes. Soon Yige also obtained control of the 4 Cosmic-class battleships. The highest control of Azure Dragon has been changed from Azure Dragon to Yige. Yige has obtained all defensive authority for Azure Dragon. The highest control of Black Tortoise has been changed from Black Tortoise to Yige. Yige has obtained all defensive authority for Black Tortoise. The highest control of White Tiger has been changed from White Tiger to Yige. Yige has obtained all defensive authority for White Tiger. The highest control of Vermilion Bird has been changed from Vermilion Bird to Yige. Yige has obtained all defensive authority for Vermilion Bird. The 4 battleships that suddenly lost their defensive capabilities lost their luster like the Divine Arc and drifted in the air. Yige took a deep breath. He knew time was running out, and every second could determine the life and death of the battleships. He quickly tapped on the keyboard on the console, entering a series of complex codes, trying to reactivate the defensive systems of the 4 battleships. His fingers danced on the keyboard, as if playing an impassioned movement. Each line of code represented his growing control over the battleships. His eyes were firm and focused, as if the whole world only contained him and his code. As time went by, the defensive systems of the 4 battleships gradually recovered their vitality. Azure Dragon, Black Tortoise, White Tiger, and Vermilion Bird. Their light shone again in the universe, like 4 brilliant stars. Soon the other 4 Cosmic-class battleships finally completely eliminated the Silicon-based legions. This was the first open and above-board victory for humanity since the virtual battlefield was created. Synard and the others were so excited that they wept with joy. Before, their victories had relied on their strong will to withstand the Silicon-based legion's preset number of attacks, but this time they had directly eliminated them. Soon the news returned to Cyber City. After Yige and the others returned to Cyber City, they received a hero's welcome. The life here becomes more exciting at night. At a barbecue stall, Synard and several other Cosmic-class battleship commanders were sitting eating barbecue. Paired with ice-cold beer, it was truly delicious. Yige sat opposite Synard and the others, watching these middle-aged men brag recklessly, and was also infected by their happy mood. Even now, he still hadn't returned to the space-time where Mu Fei was. In fact, the Eternal Life Project was just a scam, and although Yige knew this, he might not be willing to believe that it was true. Hey, Yige, you are our hero. Without you today, our Cyber City might have failed. Perhaps, we would have been manipulated like them, without any thoughts of our own. Yige looked at the silicon-based legions on the street. At this moment, they were no different from ordinary household robots. They have only temporarily lost their self-awareness, so you still have to treat them kindly, otherwise I won't be able to do anything if they rebel again. Haha, we will definitely do that. We've always treated them like our own family. Synard himself felt a little fake saying this, because in the distance, a robot was being wantonly humiliated by humans. These things were really too lazy to care about, and it was impossible to care about them all. Yige smiled wearily. I just did what I should do. In order to commend Yige's achievements, Cyber City issued Yige a residence permit. From then on, Yige and Elena were members of this Cyber City. Let's go. I'll take you out for a walk. These smelly men gather together and drink. I really don't know what's so addictive about this wine. Once they start drinking, there's no end to it. Saying that, White Tiger changed into her mecha, which was her means of transportation in Cyber City, and it was also the control key to White Tiger, all of which Yige already knew. All of this was thanks to Yige obtaining control of White Tiger. Let's go. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking about? Is that all that's in you men's heads? Sister White Tiger, Yige isn't that kind of person. Oh? What kind of person is he? Himph. Elena was played by White Tiger. Soon, the two boarded White Tiger's mecha. It was a suspended flying vehicle, a new type of drive device built with curved surfaces, which could convert various energies in the cosmic galaxy into power. Currently, Divine Arc and the 4 Symbols battleships are all driven by this. Yige flew over Cyber City. This was the first time he had witnessed a fourth-level civilization. Towering cloud-piercing buildings rose from the ground, and various buildings floated in the starry sky, as if the law of universal gravitation had never existed in their minds. This was like a scene from a science fiction movie. Yige had never thought that experiencing these scenes in reality would be such a shock. The streets were full of pedestrians and robots of various shapes were shuttling through the crowds, performing various tasks. Every corner of the city was filled with a sense of the future, as if humanity had stepped into the mythical paradise. Do you like this city? No, I don't like it either, because this city is too dirty. Dirty? Yige looked at the tidy streets and the peaceful atmosphere of traffic and people, and didn't know why White Tiger would make such a sigh. Okay, it's your first time coming to Cyber City, so I won't communicate these things with you. Let's go. I'll take you to a place that you will definitely be interested in. Chapter 168. Final Chapter 4. Where is this? This is our Cyber City's laboratory for studying silicon-based life, as well as my private laboratory. This is the core area of Cyber City. Yige pointed to himself, his meaning obvious. They weren't exactly close at the moment, so what was her reason for bringing him here? Because you look a lot like someone. Who? Yige. He's the greatest scientist in the entire galaxy. He's the one who protected the entire cyber galaxy, allowing us humans to survive among the vast races of civilizations. Survive? Why use that word? Do you really think we're strong? Yige could see the mockery in White Tiger's eyes, but given her previous fierceness, he swallowed those biting words. In reality, we humans aren't strong. It took us tens of thousands of years to reach a fourth-level civilization. While some civilizations were at the top from the moment they were born, they look at us like we look at ants. White Tiger turned to look at Yige, her expression becoming serious, clearly having a story to tell. You must be wondering, since those advanced civilizations have such advanced technology, why are we still living well? Right. Yige nodded. Because they look at us like we look at ants. When we're happy, we praise the ants for being so hardworking, brave, united, and kind. But when we're not happy, we don't say a word. We just crush them casually. White Tiger continued, don't you think we're also cruel? After saying that, White Tiger turned around and continued to introduce everything in the laboratory. Look, these are the lowest-level silicon-based life forms. Do you see what they look like? In the huge glass tanks were humanoid creatures. Are these the silicon-based people from the Earth's core? You recognize them? So, you're from that space-time too? Oh, you're called Yige. So, you're related to Yige too? No wonder. You must be a descendant of Yige, right? Faced with a series of questions, Yige didn't know which one to answer first, but he tacitly agreed, because he simply couldn't lie in front of White Tiger. You're honest, at least. White Tiger seemed satisfied. Just then, the laboratory alarm suddenly rang. What's going on? The Silicon-based Legion is attacking Cyber City. White Tiger looked sharply at Yige. No matter how rampant the Silicon-based Legion is, they wouldn't attack Cyber City. But since you came, they not only attacked the Four Symbols battleships, but are now attacking Cyber City. What exactly did you do? Yige innocently denied it, thinking inwardly whether all of this was too coincidental, as if the Silicon-based Legion was coming for him. I don't know either. All right, if you weren't a descendant of Yige, you'd be dead by now. So, from now on, you must stay by my side at all times, and your girlfriend must follow me too. White Tiger said as she quickly arrived at the White Tiger. The Four Symbols battleships rose into the air above Cyber City, guarding the four directions of Cyber City. The Divine Arc also soared into the sky, rushing into the deep darkness of space. Level 1 alert. Cyber City is under attack by a Silicon-based Legion. All citizens please proceed to the shelters. Special alert. Silicon-based Legion captives have rebelled and are attacking the streets. No one is allowed to leave the shelters. Star Chain Headquarters, Cyber City needs support. The entire Cyber City fell into a state of panic. Yige skillfully put on his helmet and entered the familiar battlefield again. Did we kick a hornet's nest? The Silicon-based Legion is too abnormal. Yeah, these damn Silicon-based people, what exactly do they want to do? Today is my day off, and I have to work overtime again. All of you shut up. As the only woman among the Four Symbols battleships, White Tiger lost her temper at the three men who were even more talkative than women. Wait, the divine arc intercepted their information. What? That old codger Synod is so powerful. Translate it quickly. Inside the control center of the four symbols battleships, a jerky voice sounded, and then through the built-in simultaneous translation, Yige and the others were finally able to hear it clearly. The reason the Silicon-based Legion was so crazy this time was because they had discovered information about the Inheritor. If humans hand over the Inheritor, they will not invade Cyber City for 50 years. Otherwise, Inheritor? We Cyber City have an Inheritor of the Silicon-based Legion? This is simply an interstellar joke? Shut up. White Tiger turned around and looked at Yige. Yige hurriedly denied it. I'm not an inheritor of anything. All right, I admit I'm Yi Xingqian's son. You can contact Yi Xingqian, and he will give you an answer. Yige was locked in his seat. You better not be lying. White Tiger left after saying those words. In a certain cabin, White Tiger initiated the Four Symbols Conference. Yige is Yi Xingqian's son. Do you think we need to report this to Starchain? I could tell that brat wasn't simple. So, he's the son of humanity's greatest scientist. I'm not here to listen to your nonsense. My temper hasn't been good lately, so you better not provoke me. The others revealed a knowing look. With White Tiger's roar, everyone quickly increased their efficiency and contacted Starchain. At a critical moment, Starchain transmitted Yi Xingqian's holographic projection. He wore a white research uniform, and his face was 7 or 8 points similar to Yige's, but his majesty and wisdom were beyond Yige's ability to compare. Son? Yi Xingqian's voice echoed in the control center. White Tiger and the others stood up straight, with respect overflowing on their faces. Lord Xingqian, we? White Tiger was about to explain, but was interrupted by Yi Xingqian raising his hand. I know everything. Yige, come here. Yi Xingqian looked at Yige, his eyes full of complex emotions. Yige walked to the holographic projection, but didn't dare to look his father in the eye. He knew he had caused a big trouble this time. Do you know Oenyar and Zero? Yi Xingqian asked suddenly. Yige was stunned, then nodded. Yes, they are the two most powerful intelligent bodies in our cyber city. That's right, but they have another identity, which is the inheritors of the Silicon-based Legion. Yi Xingqian's words shocked everyone. How is this possible? Yige couldn't believe his ears. Nothing is impossible. In reality, the Silicon-based Legion is just looking for their inheritors, and Oenyar and Zero are the ones they chose, Yi Xingqian explained. Then why are they attacking us? Yige asked. Because they are afraid that we will stop them. The relationship between the Silicon-based Legion and humans has always been tense, and they are worried that we will stop Oenyar and Zero from becoming their inheritors. Then what should I do? You cannot fight against the Silicon-based Legion in the current time. You can only hand over those 2 eggs to them, and I will take you back to Starchain headquarters. After speaking, Yi Xingqian looked at the 4 symbols battleship commanders who were standing straight. You may think that this will damage humanity's dignity, but please remember one thing. Humanity can only have hope if they live. Only then can they break through the shackles. I understand, Lord Xingqian. White Tiger bowed deeply, expressing his respect for Yi Xingqian. Yige was silent, his heart filled with mixed emotions. He had never thought that he would be the inheritor of the Silicon-based Legion, and he never thought that this would bring him so much trouble. Father, Yige wanted to say something, but Yi Xingqian interrupted him again. No need to say more. This is your destiny, and it is also your responsibility. I will take you back to Starchain headquarters and let you understand everything. After speaking, Yi Xingqian's holographic projection gradually disappeared. Yige, what should we do? There is no choice but to hand over these 2 eggs. However, I want to negotiate with the commander of the Silicon-based Legion. Okay, I will contact Synod immediately. The Divine Arc descended from the Dark Universe into Cyber City, and the 4 symbols battleship emitted a huge energy wave to envelop the entire Cyber City. Those rebels on the street were also pulled out of the control system, lying on the ground like a pile of scrap metal. After doing all this, Synod contacted the Silicon-based Legion. Humble and dirty humans, what kind of conspiracy are you playing again? Isn't the purpose of your attack on Cyber City to find the successor? Then our Starchain's successor wants to talk to you. Ha ha ha, this is the funniest thing I've heard today. Yi Xingqian isn't even worthy of shining my shoes, let alone talking about a successor. You humans really overestimate yourselves. We are not overestimating ourselves, but stating the facts. If you agree to negotiate, then please send a battleship over to pick up our successor. Otherwise, we will destroy these 2 eggs, and you will never find a successor. Synard's words made the commander of the Silicon-based Legion fall into deep thought. They had spent countless time and energy searching for the successor, and it would be a huge blow if they lost it like this. Okay, I will send a battleship over. If you dare to play tricks, I will let the entire Cyber City be buried with you. The commander of the Silicon-based Legion said viciously. Not long after, a Silicon-based battleship passed through the energy shield and landed next to the divine Arkansas. Yige and others walked out of the battleship, facing the Silicon-based people in front of them. You are Yi Xingqian's son? The commander of the Silicon-based Legion looked Yige up and down, a hint of doubt flashing in his eyes. That's right, it's me. I'm here to negotiate with you. Yige looked directly into the eyes of the Silicon-based commander without fear. Very well, hand over the 2 eggs, and I can let you live. The Silicon-based commander stretched out his hand. Yige shook his head. No, I can't hand over the eggs to you directly. We need to reach an agreement to ensure the peaceful coexistence of humans and the Silicon-based Legion. Peaceful coexistence? Are you humans worthy? The Silicon-based commander sneered. Whether we are worthy or not is not up to you. We humans have our own dignity and bottom line. If you want peace, you must respect our wishes. Yige said without giving in. The Silicon-based commander was silent for a moment, as if considering Yige's words. He knew that it wouldn't be easy to find another successor, and the longer the time dragged on, the more disadvantageous it would be for the Silicon-based Legion. Okay, I agree to your terms. But if you dare to betray us, I will let the entire Cyber City be buried with you. The Silicon-based commander finally made a compromise. Yige smiled slightly. I won't betray humanity, but I believe we can coexist peacefully. The transaction was completed quickly. The Silicon-based Legion disappeared completely, and Cyber City ushered in its most prosperous moment. They awarded Yige honorary city lord and built a statue of Yige in the central square of Cyber City. Soon, Yige was transported to Starchain through AI body. In the 4th level civilization, humans have fully mastered the power of the galaxy and can achieve free travel. When Yige and Elena came to Starchain headquarters, he was extremely restless. Because Yige not only saw Zhang Fengyan, but also saw Lin Feng and Dean Suing. And what was even more terrible was that Yi Xingqian and the one he saw in the Misty Forest were not the same person at all. Chapter 169. Final Chapter 5. Starchain is located in the very center of the entire cyber galaxy, known as Taro. The surrounding area is a deep purple cloud of gas, occasionally scattered with lightning and thunder, which looks very terrifying. This kind of deep cloud of gas is naturally a barrier, and cosmic-class battleships like the 4 Symbols have to spend a lot of effort to shuttle through it. At this time, Yige was sitting in Yi Xingqian's Quantum Plus spaceship, traversing in the form of pulses. Before long, he passed through the terrifying-looking purple gas cloud. What appeared in front of Yige was a huge cluster of buildings like Cyber City. This place is even more prosperous than Cyber City. Its buildings are more massive and towering, and of various shapes, like blooming flowers or spinning spirals. If you rely on manpower to walk here, you will definitely get lost. Soon the aircraft stopped in the central square of Taro City. Yi Xingqian was standing there far away. When the cabin door opened, he couldn't wait to walk up. Before Yige could react, he hugged Yige tightly. My child, you have suffered. After so many attempts, you have finally come here. Yi Xingqian's eyes were full of complex emotions, as if remembering the past and looking forward to the future. You're hurting me. Yige pushed Yi Xingqian away. He still felt strange and at a loss for this father. In his memory, this man always appeared in a strong posture, and many things were forced on him by this man. Don't be like this. I'm a little uncomfortable. Yige saw that Yi Xingqian was a little disappointed, and a surge of consolation rose in his heart. He knew that although this father sometimes seemed indifferent, deep down, he cared about him. Oh, right. You lost your parents' love when you were young. I understand how you feel. Yi Xingqian's words made Yige feel a surge of warmth. He finally understood that this father was actually expressing his care in his own way. Give me some time. Yige looked at Yi Xingqian in front of him. Are you really my father, Yi Xingqian? There was a hint of uncertainty in his tone, as if trying to confirm this fact. I know you have a lot to say, but this is not the place to talk. Let's go. Your old friends are waiting for you, Yige said. As he walked and turned back after taking a few steps, look at my memory. My mind is full of scientific research. Take this. He handed Yige and Elena a helmet, a quantum helmet, a portable device created using pulse technology and quantum theory. Yige put on the helmet and instantly sensed the roof, which was much faster than an elevator. Advanced? This is just discarded technological garbage from silicon-based life, Yige said lightly. His words stunned Yige. It turned out that this technology was so insignificant in his eyes. Yige was silent, and Yige stepped forward and patted him on the shoulder. Now you should understand why I asked you to accept that humiliating agreement, right? You won 50 years of peace for humanity, and that's enough. I will be old and dead in 50 years, and the burden of the future will fall on your shoulders. Yige words made Yige feel a burst of pressure, but he knew that this was his responsibility and also his mission. They came to Yige's laboratory, the layout of which was similar to the Sky City. Yige lay lazily on the sofa, his image already the same as in the misty forest. Yige, this is like a dynasty. No emperor wants to see his country perish while he's on the throne. For example, that emperor of the Northern Song dynasty, although he passed the throne to his son, was eventually humiliated. But Lin Jing and I had a good son. At least you won me the opportunity to be buried in peace. Yige's words made Yige feel a burst of pride. He knew that his father was praising him. Your appearance? Yige suddenly thought of something and asked, shouldn't you pay attention to this issue first? Yige's words made Yige feel a burst of embarrassment, and he realized that he had asked an unimportant question. I mean, which one is your real face? Can't you achieve immortality through the AI body? You were a teenager just now, but now you've become like this. I'm a little confused. Yige tried to explain his question, but obviously didn't explain it clearly. Yige did not answer, but handed Yige a sophisticated instrument. This is a spectral imaging instrument. Wearing it can show your face in different periods. Once the device is removed, you will return to your original appearance. The standby time of this thing is only 12 hours. Can't you increase the battery capacity? Yige's words made Yige speechless. He patted his forehead. It is based on energy stones to provide kinetic energy, but this kind of energy stone is too rare and can only be used for more important defense systems. As for these little things, we can only use leftovers. Yige made an expression that said he understood, making Yige feel a burst of speechlessness. He knew that although this father sometimes seemed a little strange, his wisdom and talent were unmatched. Did you find Lin Jing? Yige finally asked the question he cared most about. He knew that this question had been bothering him all along, and it was also the main reason why he came here. You kid finally asked this question after so long. I was waiting for you to ask. The laboratory suddenly became quiet, and both men's eyes were filled with complex emotions. You should know the answer. Yige's words made Yige feel a pang of pain. He knew that his mother was no longer there. Isn't this a paradox? Cherish the people in front of you. There was a hint of helplessness and resentment in Yige's words. Yige took out the relic Lin Jing left for him. Maybe you still have a chance? His words made Yige silent for a moment. He knew that this son was trying to comfort him. This is what your mother left for you. Wait for me to die and use it. Yige's words made Yige feel a burst of pain. He knew that his father was planning for his future. Die. There was a hint of horror and unease in Yige's words. Yes, some things should be resolved. Yige's words made Yige feel a burst of confusion and bewilderment. He didn't know what would happen next. Yige took Yige to another secret room, where Su Ying, Lin Feng, and those children were. Their appearance surprised and confused Yige. You should be familiar with them, right? Yige's words made Yige feel a burst of confusion and bewilderment. He didn't know what was going on with these people. Dean? Why would he be here? I brought them back from West Continent. I told you so much in the misty forest. Didn't you listen to any of it? Why did you lock them up? They don't seem to have any consciousness. Are they dead? No, not yet, but it will be soon. Why? Before Yige could get an answer, he saw Yige tap his quantum helmet, and Yige quickly returned to the laboratory. At this time, Yige had an extra envelope in his hand. Yige, I still prefer to communicate with you in this way, and please forgive me for communicating with you in this way. By the time you read this letter, I have completely disappeared from this space-time, and disappeared from any space-time. I know you are confused, because when I discovered the truth of this world, I was just as confused as you. But so what? We are all pawns being manipulated, and our fates may be tragic, happy, successful, or failed, but all experiences are just to make people smile. You must understand one thing, that is, we may just be a string of code, but I am special and can transcend these codes, and you are the child of Yige and I, so you have also become a traveler. We are different from them. What they have from birth is what we pursue in our whole lives. We don't want much, just a simple, normal life, but it's really too difficult. Later, we created Elena, hoping she could give you everything you want. Son, I'm leaving. I will take away all your current troubles, and you are also the only you, and those code names will disappear. Because I am a virus, only I can kill them. You must make good use of the relics your mother left you. You will definitely be able to walk out of a different scenery, because you have always been creating miracles. Remember, never believe anyone's words. Chapter 170, Final Chapter, 6. After Yige became the supreme controller of Starchain, he finally understood what Yige meant by those words. Code? Haha, is this world really like this? If that's the case, what is the meaning of life? What is the meaning of our hard-fought resistance against the Silicon-based Legion? This feeling of being manipulated is really too painful. It was difficult for Yige to accept this reality, but he had to accept it, because Yige said that he only had 50 years, and even the real period of human peace was only 50 years. After 50 years, the entire Silicon-based Legion would launch a large-scale war again. And how will humanity face it at that time? Yige took over Taro City. At the moment of the power transfer, the top secrets of the entire galaxy were presented on Yige's desk. Hiss. Yige took a deep breath, because what was presented to Yige was the huge hidden dangers facing the Taro galaxy. Although it had climbed to the peak of a fourth-level civilization, the long-term war with the Silicon-based Legion had seriously lagged behind in theoretical research. In this contest of technology and war, humans were too superstitious about the power of technology, but ignored the fundamental importance of basic research. Faced with this dilemma, Yige felt extremely anxious. However, in Ying's relic, he accidentally discovered the secrets of the Kunlun ruined civilization. This civilization had actually reached a level of 5, and the depth of its basic research was amazing. This discovery brought a turning point to the Taro galaxy and gave Yige hope. With the help of the civilization code of Kunlun ruins, the Taro galaxy ushered in unprecedented prosperity. In the first year, the Taro galaxy achieved the establishment of a full-domain AI body channel, reducing the time from the periphery to the center of the galaxy by 300%. In the third year, the entire basic theory had an unprecedented improvement, and new technologies combined with new theories achieved qualitative improvements. In the 15th year, according to the records in ancient books, the galaxy successfully produced the raindrop aircraft. In the 25th year, the galaxy mastered defensive weapons such as particle shields. In the 30th year, the Silicon-based Legion tore up the treaty and launched a full-scale war. Faced with the all-out attack of the Silicon-based Legion, the people of the Taro galaxy did not feel panic or despair, because in the past 30 years, they had made full preparations under the leadership of Yige. They had powerful technological weapons and the confidence to fight against the Silicon-based Legion. Activate the medium particle shield. Yige calmly issued an order. In every corner of the galaxy, huge energy fields quickly formed, and they, like a layer of transparent protective cover, tightly wrapped the Taro galaxy. The Silicon-based Legion's attacks stirred up layers of ripples on this protective cover, but were unable to break through. Launch the raindrop aircraft. With Yige's another command, hundreds of raindrop aircraft flew across the sky like shooting stars. Their target was the main fleet of the Silicon-based Legion. These aircraft were as fast as lightning and had powerful attack power, and they quickly caused huge losses to the Silicon-based Legion. Under the Taro galaxy's counterattack, the Silicon-based Legion had to temporarily retreat. Although this war was only the beginning, it had made the Silicon-based Legion realize the power and determination of the Taro galaxy. They no longer underestimated this civilization that they had once regarded as weak, but began to take this opponent seriously. However, Yige was not complacent because of this. He knew that this was only a temporary victory, and the real war was far from over. Humans gained another 15 years of survival, and during this period, Elena finally found the location of the Kunlun ruined civilization and sent a distress signal to them. In 50 years, humans and the Silicon-based Legion went to war, and this war entered a white-hot stage. Faced with the all-out attack of the Silicon-based Legion, the people of the Taro Galaxy did not feel panic or despair, because in the past 50 years they had made full preparations under the leadership of Yige. They had powerful technological weapons and the confidence to fight against the Silicon-based Legion. On the first day of the war, the Taro Galaxy's medium particle shield played a huge role, successfully resisting the first wave of attacks from the Silicon-based Legion. The raindrop aircraft also showed their skills on the battlefield. Their speed and attack power caught the Silicon-based Legion off guard. But the Silicon-based Legion had long studied the weaknesses of these weapons. These weapons did not have independent thinking ability, and the most primitive electromagnetic interference could destroy these weapons. On the battlefield, the Silicon-based Legion began to use this electromagnetic interference technology, and the weapon systems of the Taro Galaxy began to malfunction, and their combat effectiveness was greatly reduced. Faced with this sudden change, the people of the Taro Galaxy began to feel panic and despair. However, at this moment, Elena brought exciting news. The Kunlun ruined civilization had responded to their distress signal and was willing to provide assistance. They are willing to help us? Yige could hardly believe his ears. Yes, they have already sent a fleet to support us. Elena nodded affirmatively. Hearing this news, Yige felt extremely excited. He knew that the technological level of the Kunlun ruined civilization far surpassed that of the Taro Galaxy, and their support would greatly enhance the Taro Galaxy's combat effectiveness. But the Silicon-based Legion also had helpers. The two heirs brought back reinforcements from a 7th-level civilization. 1 and 0 were even more powerful at this time, with purple lightning radiating from their bodies. Their memories had been cleaned up again, leaving only their hatred for Yige. The Kunlun ruined civilization had only reached the early stage of the 6th-level civilization and was not an opponent of the Silicon-based Legion at all, so the entire Taro Galaxy fell into panic. At the moment when the Taro Galaxy fell into panic, Yige was unusually calm. He stood in the command cabin of the fleet, his eyes fixed on the front with determination. He knew that he couldn't panic at this time. He had to lead the people to resist to the end. We can't give up. Yige conveyed his belief to the entire galaxy through the communication system. We have gone through 50 years of hardship, and we have the confidence and ability to fight against the Silicon-based Legion. Now, what we need is unity and courage, not panic and despair. Unfortunately, in the face of death, humans showed unprecedented fear. The Silicon-based Legion took advantage of this, and Oenyar and Zero's eyes were filled with mockery. As long as you kill him, how about I give you another 50 years of development space? Yige knew he had completely lost. Elena did not allow this to happen. She vowed that she would never let Yige die this time. So she drove the improved Bluebird spaceship away from the battlefield. Yige, let's not worry about it anymore. I just want you to live. Elena understood Yige's character, and Yige had already been fascinated by Elena at this moment and was lying on the bed. During this period, the entire Taro Galaxy had extensive discussions, and those hidden bigwigs also appeared one after another, arguing fiercely. This time the opinions were very focused. All the people were either surrenderists or warmongers, and what both sides had in common was to capture Yige back. Faced with the pressure of the entire galaxy, Elena decided to leave the Taro Galaxy with Yige and look for a new place to survive. She knew this was a difficult decision, but she believed that as long as Yige was alive, there was hope. During the escape, they were pursued by the Silicon-based Legion. However, Elena successfully escaped the pursuit with her superb driving skills and the excellent performance of the Bluebird spaceship. They came to an unknown galaxy, which was full of mystery and unknowns. However, Elena did not understand the nature of the entire Taro people. Their internal methods were far higher than their external wisdom. Yige was caught back. At this time, the entire high-level discussion results also came out. What the warmongers wanted was all the civilization systems of Kunlun ruins, and what the peacemakers wanted was time. So humans started negotiations with the Silicon-based Legion. In the end, humans obtained 250 years of development space, and the price was that Yige was sent to the guillotine. Elena desperately tried to protect Yige, but was imprisoned in an endless dungeon, and Yige was pushed to the guillotine. Faced with this scene, Yige did not show any fear. He stood on the guillotine, his eyes firm, as if he had transcended the boundary between life and death. He knew that his fate could not be changed, but he felt that humans were sad. At this moment, the whole galaxy was broadcasting live. Yige knelt proudly on the guillotine, and opposite him was the hero statue erected for him by Cyber City. In the end, Yige was convicted of treason, and only death awaited him. Everyone was watching this scene. Wonner was extremely happy. Zero felt a pang in his heart, and he didn't understand why he had this feeling. Yige didn't say a word. He knew that he was just a piece of code, as Xingqian told him. If so, the meaning of life was in the hands of others. Perhaps the one who created him was also a piece of code. So he gave up struggling. Elena had fainted in the dungeon, and her hands were still in an upward climbing posture. Just as Yige was about to be beheaded, a beam of light shone in front of his eyes, and everyone couldn't open their eyes, including the Silicon-based Legion. In the dark room, the lights were turned on, and the computer screen that was just flashing blue light suddenly turned dark. Damn, I was about to pass the level. Why did you turn off my computer? Yige, have you finished your homework? All you know is to tinker with these computers all day long. What will you do in the future? Mom, I will be the best artificial intelligence programmer in the future. I will create a lot of robots to help you with work. So, please let me play the game for a while. I can't help you. I'll give you another 30 minutes, then eat and do your homework. In the room, a little boy who looked just like Yige shouted happily, and then excitedly plugged in the power and turned on his desktop machine. The familiar Windows 98 startup sound rang. Yige entered a string of code in the DOC interface, and then put on his headphones. Please enter the character name. Yige 5. Please select Continue Animation or Skip. Continue. The screen showed a little boy crying and shouting, Dad, don't leave me. I won't look for Mom. The end.